Alrighty, we're doing a stream. We're doing a stream. It's streaming time with John and Milo. Milo's my dog. He's slightly off screen. But here we are, if you know what I mean. It's streaming time with John. Hey guys, how you doing today? That was a really nice opening. I've been feeling really bad today. If you watched my short video that I do daily, I woke up grumpy, I woke up angry, and I was sitting here and I was kind of stewing and being angry, and then I sang that little ditty and I actually feel a whole lot better. Isn't that weird? Isn't being alive very strange? It's very strange being alive in the world today. 'Cause we're being abandoned, as a people. I just feel like we gotta start talking this way. This needs to become, the common parlance, right? What are these conservatives and liberals doing except completely abandoning us? It's really clear. And all of the bullshit, the pre-pandemic, neoliberal, get a job, oh, you're just being lazy, all that kind of talk, get fucked with all of that. That's just sociopath talk at this point. I'm having regular conversations with people online now, and the stories that I'm hearing are unbelievable. But the unbelievable heartbreak that's happening right now, and to think that there's genuinely still people walking around saying, you just need to get a better job. You just need to go get educated. You just need to go, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And it's all being done so that, a small handful of sociopathic billionaires can, put more numbers in their bank accounts? No. Shut up. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And, somebody today was even trying to talk to me about Jordan Peterson and Rex Murphy, because of my video where I said that Rex Murphy is a white supremacist. So is Jordan Peterson, by the way. And you get to talking to these guys for, 10 seconds, and you realize, oh yeah, they deny the existence of the residential school genocide. And it's oh, yeah. Well, if you're going to do that, then... Hey, Lonnie, how you doing? First in the gate. Look at you. You get a prize. You get a prize. My undying affection, Lonnie. How you doing? How you doing? What a day I'm having, Lonnie. I hope you're having a good day. I've been talking to plenty of people, and I'm really realizing that there's just lots of people out there who do not, they'll give placations towards the residential school genocide, but they don't give a fuck about it. It doesn't compute in their head, right? To them, it might as well be a fictional book, that they read, right? They read this fiction book, and it in no way has connected to their lived reality or to to their observation of the world around them. That's it's a different group of people did that. And I'm just is it fair to say that our society sucks? Is that fair to say? Yeah. It's not even, it used to be under the surface, right? It used to be under the surface that, and if you brought it up, people would kind of shuffle their feet a little bit and kind of look at you awkwardly. But now it's right there. It's right in front of us. Settlement reached on residential school day scholars class action lawsuit. Okay, good. Good. I want to know more. I want to read this book. I want to read this book of how is it that we are not, like, we are just now beginning investigations in this. We are just now, like, I can't. How do we live in this society like this? Like, how do we live in this society like this? It's just USA, Central America, funding coup and wars that lead to genocide, along with instituting neoliberal policies that create conditions for migration. Do not come. Yeah, this is in reference to Kamala Harris saying in one of her recent speeches to people migrating to the United States, especially over the Mexico-United States border, do not come, right? So the United States, hey, you know me, Lonnie, any excuse to open Google Maps, any excuse at all, Google Maps. So literally the United States can fund, like, what's happening in Colombia alone, like, and that's a fair one to talk about, because, like, people will come through here over to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, like, up through Mexico, right? So the United States can go down into this region and, like, this region here and, like, blow it up and literally, like, make force coups, like, do all kinds of ridiculous nonsense. But if people attempt to escape these atrocities, because, like, where are they going to go? They're going to go into Venezuela, which is also being crushed by economic sanctions. Where are they going to go? They're going to go into Peru, which just recently, like literally yesterday, got rid of a fascist. They're going to go down into Brazil, which is ruled by fascist people, right? So they're, like, fleeing wherever they can, right? And, oh no, the United States has to deal with the consequences of its own actions through South America. And Kamala Harris stands up and says, do not come. Like, friggin' unreal. Just, like... And these are the same people that are going to stand around and tell you that, like, people need to take responsibility for their actions. You need to take responsibility for your actions. Well, take responsibility for your actions then, America. Like, take you... Yeah, I don't understand the amount of people voting against their own interest and create this mess. Like, you got to remember, Lonnie, like, we are the people who fell for reefer madness. Like, you got to remember this. Like, as soon as you realize that, like, here, I keep referring to this, but, like, we got to actually, like, YouTube. I misspelled it, so I went the weird way.
It was nighttime when I set up machine guns and screaming.
Like, imagine, we're not going to watch all of this, obviously. But, like...
You probably read about the paper.
So people watched this and genuinely took it seriously. Like, people watched Reefer Madness and walked away from this movie instead of going, that was idiotic. Like, that was absolutely the stupidest nonsense I've ever seen. And, like, the people... and obviously this is just like a propaganda riff in order to have us go along with something that the government is doing. Instead of that, the populace... like, almost unanimously agreed that if you smoke marijuana, it'll ruin your life or it'll make you go crazy, right? Like, it'll make you go crazy. That's why it was called Reefer Madness. I'm trying to find the exact, like, clip where they... And, of course, this is from, like, the 1930s, so it takes, like, 10 hours to do, like, even the most basic thing, right? Like that's the one... Like, I have a minor in film, and one thing I will say about, like, older films, boy, it takes them forever to do, like, even the most basic stuff. Like, literally, like, let's linger on this shot for five minutes. Whereas, you know, modern film will just be like, clip, let's go. Anyway, so you're living in a society that fell for reefer madness. And as soon as you recognize that, as soon as you realize that, like, oh, like, you can literally put like anything in front of these people, and people will just be like, "Oh, I guess marijuana is bad. Oh, okay," right? Once you understand how gullible we are, like how absolutely like, you ever see the movie Galaxy Quest? Right? There's this, and it's a great movie. It's like a spoof of like Star Trek, and these guys, these like TV people, they're making a TV show called Galaxy Quest. But then it turns out that there's actually like an alien species. Yeah, you know, Lonnie. But for those watching at home, so Galaxy Quest. So the aliens actually think that what they saw was a real show, right? Or was a real event. It wasn't like a fictional show. And the aliens, the reason why they think this is because they're extremely gullible. They don't understand the concept of lying. And so the villain of the piece just consistently lies to them, and they continuously believe him. And I'm just like, that's the American populace. Like, that's Canadians, right? Like, we genuinely are just like, oh, well, I saw reefer madness, so marijuana must be bad. Oh, communism's bad because it's authoritarian. Like, it takes like even a moment of criticism, right? Like, this is the thing that I've come to see, is like it takes like just like a moment of critical thinking. And like stuff like this, CIA helped plant the Brazil leader. Yeah, they even admitted it recently. They like a couple of days ago, they just came out and admitted that like, yeah, we totally did a smear campaign against Lula and helped the Bolsonaro get into office, right? Like, they just admitted it. And it's like, but if you say this to the average like American or Canadian citizen, it just doesn't penetrate at all. They like, Mark Twain has like this really brilliant quote where he says, it's easier to trick someone than to convince them they've been tricked. I think he used the word fooled, so it's easier to fool someone than convince them they've been fooled. And like, ugh, it's just absolutely the truth. We just do not have like critical thinking skills in our populace, and it's getting annoying. Like, it's getting really, really annoying, especially as things get like obvious, right? Like, especially as like all of this stuff gets like really, really obvious. I saw something recently. Oh man, another one of these, eh? Canada is not a racist country, as we exhume like a corpse. Oh my god. And of course, like, the comment section on this is going to just be like, because it's our Canada. But to call Canada a racist country is just wrong. We're literally selling weapons to a genocide in Yemen, right? Like, we're literally selling weapons to a genocide in Palestine. Like, what do you think that's about? Like, yeah, I'm with you, DM. I do not trust Julie Griftowitz. I like that. She voted to cut the CRB, yep, along with her liberal cohorts, down to $300 per week. She also voted down a wealth tax last fall. Actions speak louder. That's absolutely the truth. The documentary, Behind the Curve. First of all, great name for a flat earther document, Behind the Curve. I'd have to buy it. So it's not a free thing. Okay. I'm not going to go too deep in that then. But, like, the flat earth, like, to me, the flat earth thing is, first of all, DM, like, yeah, I completely agree with you with Julie. Like, I think that the liberals are trying to do a con where they're just like, oh, look, we've got legislation coming through with the basic income. Yeah, it's for sure going to happen, you guys. Yeah, it's absolutely going to happen. Just vote for us again. We could put it in now, but, you know, we'll put it in after the election. For serious, we promise. And Canadians are so stupid and gullible that they'll be like, oh, yeah, I trust these liberals even though they've lied about literally everything they've ever said, ever. Like, fuck, we're just an embarrassing people. It is going to take some of these people, like some of these liberals, it is going to take them getting kicked out of their houses and going and living in a tent for some of these people to be like, I think something's gone wrong. Like, it is going to take that. It's just ridiculous. Flat earthers are hilarious, man. Like, people look at flat earthers and they're like, I'm confused by this. Don't they understand that there is evidence and facts? And like, yeah, when you take a look at it from like the perspective of like, yeah, there's evidence and facts and all this kind of stuff. But like, it completely makes sense that like a flat earth movement is, it's a mistrust of everything, right? That people have been so effectively lied to and so thoroughly lied to that they're not willing to believe anything. Like, that's what's happening, is that the flat earth movement is really just an extension of the death of like, it's what happens when you lie to people, right? When you lie to people on a high level institutional level. Like, we're talking about like the Congress, the Senate, the White House, the Pentagon, the CIA, the FBI, right? All of these organizations, and then on top of that, your MSNBC, CNN, Fox, like all of those institutions, right? All of them have structurally built themselves to totally bullshit and lie to you. And once you accept that that's the case, well, there aren't other institutions, like there aren't other structures, right? So you don't know what to believe. You don't know who to talk to. And of course, like, so this manifests itself in many ridiculous ways. QAnon is one of these manifestations, right? Russiagate, right? Like, if you don't believe anything and you're super gullible and you're just willing to absorb any information and accept it as true, Russiagate is totally just another one of these manifestations. And the flat earth, like the flat earthers, make all kinds of sense to me, right? Like, I don't believe anything I'm being told by any institution. I don't trust any of these politicians. I don't trust any of these so-called experts, right? And then you just end up on an internet forum someday, and you're looking into flat Earth, and people are giving like, here's one of the more interesting arguments, right? And like, part of the reason why the flat Earth thing works so well is that the people who are putting forward the arguments are putting forward arguments that seem to make sense but are easily debunkable, right? So like, I talked to a flat earther once, and he said, like, if you stand on a shore, right? If you stand on a shore of a continent or of a lake, for example, and you look across the water with a telescope, right? You'll see the other side of the shore, right? And why wouldn't that be the case unless the Earth was flat? And what's annoying about that is that it like completely denies the existence. Like, water fills up containers, right? That this will always be flat no matter what I put inside of it. So this could be round, this could be like fully round, or it could have like lots of different divots or something. The surface will always be flat because that's how water works, right? And so when you're standing at the edge of a lake or a sea or whatever, right? You are standing, like, the bottom of the ground underneath the water is round, but because water flattens out, because that's how water works, like, water doesn't curve at the top, it flattens out, you'll see the other side. But, like, if you're willing to get suckered into the idea that the Earth is flat in the first place, then there's no limit to the bullshit that you're willing to accept, right? That and this goes to there are certain things that if you're talking to someone and they're genuinely telling you they believe or dismiss, it means that you cannot trust them. Like, if somebody was walking around saying that they were a prophet sent by God, you could just pretty much be like, yeah, probably not, right? Probably not going to listen to anything this guy has to say. If somebody's walking around denying the existence of systemic racism in Canada, you can pretty much, okay, buddy, off you go. And this article is embarrassing, and it's embarrassing that the National Post is continuously publishing this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. There is certainly no question that hate crimes against many minority groups have been on the rise recently. Statistics Canada has found that they've increased. Not a racist country. Not a racist country. What's his argument? Any evidence that racism on the rise is deplorable, yeah. However, here we go. Singh does the cause of fighting racism no favors by taking an extreme, exaggerating position. Cannot agree with. Are there racists in Canada? Is Canada a racist country? Absolutely not. The current government is literally fighting in court against First Nations people in regards to the residential school genocide, right? By any metric. Okay. How many white kids are in foster care and how many First Nations kids are in foster care? There's a metric, right? By any metric? Oh, okay. These embarrassing articles to come out of the National Post. I just wish we had a culture. I wish we actually had a culture. And the thing is that so flat eartherism, we pretend like it's innocuous, but it super is not. If you're believing something like flat Earth, if you're believing that, then there's nothing you won't believe. You'll believe anything, right? You can be suckered into believing anything, which is why the QAnon movement was so easily co-opted by the Trump administration. It was so easy, right? The Q thing started as just an internet forum being run by just a couple of dudes, basically. They weren't funded by the CIA. They weren't funded by anything, right? You could maybe make an argument that maybe the CIA was going into 8chan, which was the name of the message board that Q was posting on. You could make that argument if you wanted. But all that happened is that these Q people started showing up at rallies with their Qs, which is how there's this great documentary called Q Into the Storm, and this documentarian noticed, hey, there's all these Qs around. And if this documentarian notices this, certainly the Republican insiders noticed it as well, right? And all it took for Trump to co-opt this movement and have them start worshiping him was to start talking to them. And not talking to them directly, right? Talking to them in stupid QAnon-y kind of ways. If somebody walked up to Donald Trump and said hey, Donald, all you gotta say is instead of saying thank you, you have to say thank you, and these QAnon people will go nuts for it. Donald Trump's gonna be yeah, okay. And Donald, you just have to say into the storm, right? Say into the storm. And he's oh, okay, I'll just say into the storm at some point. And there's a QAnon oath, right? That has I forget the exact phrasing or the phrase, but there's this phrase. It's where we go, where one goes, we all go, or something like that. And it's Donald, just say where one goes, we all go, right? And he's oh, okay. So he says it, and suddenly QAnon is losing their mind, and they'll worship this guy. And so if you're believing flat Earth stuff, there's nothing you won't believe. You can get suckered into anything. And I mean, that's generally true for most of the population. Most of the population can be suckered into most anything, really. Milo doesn't like it when people get suckered, right? So he's telling everybody, yeah, that's right, buddy. That's right. Don't Don't get suckered. Don't get suckered. That's what he's saying. Don't get suckered. That's okay, buddy. I know. The window. To the window. To the wall. To the Milo. Okay, Milo, it's time for your daily appearance. Daily appearance. Daily appearance. The pug wants you to know. He wants you to know that you can be suckered by the CIA. Yeah, the CIA will lie to you. All right, buddy. Thanks for that segment. Oh, Laura Stone on Twitter. I really like Laura Stone. I think that she's a good reporter. Welp, the Ontario legislature is returning tomorrow at 3 p.m., so the government can introduce legislation invoking the notwithstanding clause that allows the government to override yesterday's court decision about third-party political advertising. So there are literally tent cities, right? There are literally tent cities that exist in this city, and Doug Ford's not holding an emergency return to legislature so that he can deal with the crisis, the enormous crisis of tent cities, or Trudeau towns as I've been calling them, right? He's not interested in dealing with those. He's not interested in helping any of those people out. Nope. Gotta call an emergency legislature meeting so that he can introduce legislation evoking the notwithstanding clause that allows the government to override yesterday's court decision, which was declared non-constitutional, right? So he wants to put in legislation that has already been declared unconstitutional to allow third-party political advertising to advertise on his behalf. This guy is a fucking sociopath, right? Like, I don't know, what else would you call Doug Ford at this point, right? Like, when he showed up at that, to give his condolences, right, for the four Muslim people who were killed, right? He got booed. Good. Boo this guy. Boo this guy at every possible opportunity. Make his life uncomfortable, right? Don't let him even go out for Denny's, right? Like, if you see this guy sitting in a booth at a Denny's, you should spit at him. Like, just make his life hard. Oh, unbelievable, this guy. Oh, there's the grumpy mood. There it is. This is Lifta, a Palestinian village ethnically cleansed by Zionists in 1948. We have the documents. We know that's what happened. You can watch Abby. Oh, why am I blanking on her name? She's so beautiful and wonderful. I love her as a reporter. Abby Martin. There it is. Abby Martin. Gaza Fights for Freedom. She goes through like all these documents and shows how like Israel. Systemically, ethnically cleansed. And here's one of these villages. Now they're planning to demolish it and build a settlement there. Man, what a beautiful village, though, eh? Like, what a beautiful village. Like, we tend to think of, like, people living in, like, pre-electricity age, right? We tend to think of them as being, like, barbarians or backwards or something like that. But look at this thing. Like, look at this thing. This is beautiful. Just built into the side of a hill or a mountain. And, like, absolutely gorgeous. The way that the foliage has sort of integrated. It's got, like, kind of a Hobbiton sort of look about it, even. And it should go back to the Palestinian people. Like, this should... What a ridiculous situation, man. And they're just going to blow it up and probably put some stupid-looking glass skyscraper there. It is important to recognize that both were terrible, and if anyone overly excited about either of the options in Peru, they probably shouldn't be trusted. Castillo is deeply anti-gay and anti-immigrant, along with a host of other issues, and Fujimori waves hands at everything. Americans posting stupid shit like this while living their fat white-collar lives off the savage and violent exploitation of workers in the global south makes me want to become a Maoist. How about shut the fuck up about how they fight back, you loser Democrat? Yep. Yep. And, like, it's always the case. Like, maybe Castillo is deeply anti-gay, right? Or deeply anti-immigrant, right? Like, maybe he is. Like, every leader is going to have difficulty. But you know what? Castillo isn't, right? He's not anti literally anyone but rich people, right? Like, this is the grift that the wealthy always play. They're gonna fly a little pride flag in front of you, right? And be like, yeah, you can be gay, yeah, that's great. But if you live in abject poverty, right? They're like, oh, okay, and they'll move on. They don't care. You can be gay and in crushing poverty all day long, right? Like, and they're just flying the little flag at you so you'll ignore the fact that they're completely exploiting you, right? What's the most expensive thing you've ever broken? My leg. Titanium rod, 5 surgeries, bankruptcy, foreclosure, 7 months out of work. Over $500,000 in debt. There's like a little part of me that thinks I should just start saving these memes. Just like saving them. And then like make a little book. Just make a little book and call it like The American Horror Show. And just like if this is the only thing you ever saw about America, right? If this was it, that you just saw somebody say, my leg, what's the most expensive thing you ever broke? My leg, titanium rod, 5 surgeries, bankruptcy, foreclosure, 7 months out of work, over $500,000 in debt. If this was the only thing you ever saw about America, you would think that the place was run by complete sociopaths. Oh, you missed the opportunity, bud. You should have lurked. You should have lurked. Wait for it. Good to see you, bud. I'm glad you're here. GoFundMe seems to be an important component to U.S. medical care, and it's insane that that's the case. Like, that's absolutely asinine. Like, and you're absolutely right. And I believe GoFundMe actually released a statement about this, right? That GoFundMe was like, we should not be the go-to place for people's healthcare. It's like, and there were here. I gotta look this up. GoFundMe statement about healthcare. We share the belief that access to affordable, comprehensive healthcare is a right, not a privilege. We will encourage tens of million people in the GoFundMe community to visit healthcare.gov. Like, they're saying this back in February. And just like, there's a stat where they actually said how many of the GoFundMes are tied to healthcare. And it was astounding. I can't find that stat offhand, but it was just like this astounding percentage of GoFundMes. And it was like, it literally was something like 40 or 50% were tied to medical healthcare coverage. It's like, that is not what GoFundMe was supposed to be about. Yeah, dude, I gotta get back to working out, right? Anytime I do a workout, I feel better about myself. You know what's really the truth? I gotta keep singing. Yesterday I was like so grumpy and I was having such a bad day, and then I like sang some songs, and it just like got everything out. It just made me feel better about myself. And even though I generally sing about the horror show that we're in, yeah, everyone's got a podcast. Stay tuned for my forthcoming podcast. It's gonna get worse. I'm still working on the title, JK. I gotta tell you, bud, It's Gonna Get Worse is a great title. And what you should do is you should call it It's Gonna Get Worse, but then have like your opening show or your opening song be like super peppy and upbeat and like super like, yeah, right? I should make a song. Yeah. It's gonna get worse, do. It's gonna get worse, yeah. It's gonna get worse, yeah. It's gonna get worse. Yeah, here we are today with Onward to Dystopia. Hey! Like have a little horn, like fucking Canadians, man. We'd eat that shit right up, I bet. How Post Media has pushed Islamophobic attitudes across Ontario. Yeah, Canada Land doing good work. I mean, for goodness sakes, here you go. Canada's not a racist country. We just are exhuming mass graves, and oh, that guy ran down. And his argument is, are there racists in Canada? Sure. Is Canada a racist country? Absolutely not. So it's the classic neoliberal individualism grift, right? It's the classic, just like, oh, a couple of bad apples, right? It's a totally, it's a total grift. So how Post Media has pushed Islamic attitudes, Canada Land, always doing good work. Like, yeah. Muslim family was targeted, read the headline in the Globe and Mail. A premeditated act motivated by hate, said the National Post. Toronto Star went with unspeakable hatred. Toronto's other major daily, get ready to party on the patio. Yeah, they don't care, right? Like, the racists don't care. Like, they're literally just like, who gives a crap? So what if some white kid ran down four Muslims? Who cares? Doesn't matter, right? Like, Anyway. Yeah, why the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis is so controversial? There's no evidence. It's just shade throwing. Anytime first of all, this lady's really great. I really like her. And but like, I should actually say her name. I don't remember her name offhand. What is your name? Why aren't you telling? Rebecca Watson. She's really great. Really informed. Has her head screwed on straight. Yeah. And why is the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis so controversial? Because it's just shade throwing. It's literally just like Westerners being like, don't pay attention to our genocides. Don't pay attention to what we're doing, right? Like, and certainly don't pay attention to how badly we bungled our COVID response. Like, certainly don't pay attention to that. No, we need to spend all our time talking about how, maybe it's possible that the Chinese did this in a lab, and there's like a lab leak and all this, and like you listen to the experts talk about it, like the people who are actually involved in the process, and they're like, there's like a less than 1% chance that this is the case. Like, the experts are just like, if it is in fact a lab leak, it's the chances of that being the case are so unbelievably low that, I mean, yeah, sure, I guess we should investigate it, but like, maybe we should also investigate like how the United States completely bungled its COVID response. Yeah, Fox News blocks the blue. Fox refuses to air ad featuring police officers condemning the Capitol attack. Yeah, that is true. Onward, they'll never tell us the truth anyway. Even if they did, whether you believe what they say will depend on which camp you're in. Yeah, so it's this like, it's this fruitless conversation that's rooted in tribalism from the offset. So it's like the most pointless conversation. The right-wingers won't believe anything the government says, and the libs will justify it the same way they did about masks. The government didn't want to spook the herd, and that was justifiable. And just like, but it's so like, how do people not understand that it's so obviously a distraction? Like, it's so obviously, and how would the response have been different if it came from a lab? Yeah, exactly. Our response to it would have been exactly the same. Like, it's so like obviously tribalism. Like, it's just like, there are some issues that I look at and I think the only reason for anyone to actually even talk about this is just to get people on the same side. That if you are saying, yeah, it was a lab leak, then you're on the team, right? And it's this like, get on the team kind of thinking. Like this is how I think about the Uyghur genocide narrative, right? And who are the people who are saying that there is a Uyghur genocide going on? Canada, the United States, Europe, right? These are the people who are saying. And so, guess what? If you're saying that, that means you're on the same team. Who are the people who are denying it? The rest are denying it. Who are refusing to acknowledge that a non-event is happening? The whole rest of the world, right? So it's just, and it doesn't matter if it's real or fake. Like, this is the thing about this Uyghur genocide thing, is that at this stage, it literally doesn't matter if it's real or fake. All that matters is what team are you on? It's just a way to delineate which team you're on. And so I for sure believe that there are people in Canada who voted to declare the Uyghur genocide real, who don't care, who just are like politicians who are just like, I don't give a crap, doesn't matter to me, but my team wants me to do it, so I'm on the right side. And I see that all over the place. Like, and this right over here, the Wuhan lab leak, for sure. Like, for sure. I would like to be clear about one thing on the Uyghur genocide stuff. If actual evidence came out that showed that genocide was happening, I would change my tune instantly. Like, it's just really, really weird to me that they have, like, Google can put a satellite on this region to the point where we can, like, read stop signs, right? But we can't seem to find, 8 million people being displaced. It's just really odd. They keep showing us the tops of buildings and being like, this is where they do all this stuff. And I'm like, can you show me, like, the million people who must have been funneled into this thing through military force? No? Weird that you can't. Yeah, good. Conservative leader Doug Ford gets loud boos at the vigil in London yesterday. We should always boo this guy. We should boo him wherever he goes. Like, we should boo him on the way from his vehicle to his house, right? We should boo him if he goes out for Tim Hortons. We should make this so that this guy cannot show his face in public. He should be routinely booed. Some public swimming pools open June 12th. Oh, that's fun. Let's all get in the water together. Yeah. China's #1 domestic mystery box company, Pop Mart, announces its first line of name brand mystery boxes. Winnie the Pooh. Collect them all. Disney. Disney. Just like the most evil corporation. Like, Volvo truck workers in Virginia return to the picket lines, a turning point in the U.S. and global class struggle. Well, that's quite a statement. I mean, I'm glad to see that there's more strikes going on. I'm trying to get a conversation. I'd like to do. There's somebody who's kind of on the inside of the wine rack strike that's coming, or that is happening, and I'm hoping to get a conversation with someone. That would be cool. I would love it if my channel if I started to do, like, more interviews with striking workers. Like, that would be cool. Anyway. They originally went on strike April 17th. And, wow, the agreement was voted down in a landslide of 91% against. Woo. And they tried to resume the strike. Once again, 90% of workers voted against it. So they're just striking. They're just striking the hell out of it. This is actually a really big article. Maybe they'll actually talk about what it's about. Like, most articles... Oh, because it's coming from World Socialist. Yeah, so they will. That's really good. You ever notice you read an article about striking workers and it's literally has no information in it? It's like, these guys are calling a strike. And you're like, what about? What are their issues? What are they striking about? Oh, no, they're just calling a strike. Moving on, Kim Kardashian, right? They'll do, like, 5 hours of expose on what Kim Kardashian is doing. But, like, you're like, what about these striking workers? Don't worry about them. They'll figure it out. Hey, Obama, I'm gonna say... no, never mind. This is some Jen Zedong. I have them on here, but, like, I'd say, like, a good 50% of the memes, I'm like, what is even happening? When the workers of the world unite. I don't know if the workers of the world should be compared to the minions, you know? Like, I understand that, like, hey, Ruth, how you doing today? Yeah, I just don't know if the workers of the world should be compared to the minions. Because, like, while it's true that we all do work for, like, sociopathic megalomaniacs, and it's a little odd that Gruel, like, is consistently presented to us as a sympathetic figure when he's obviously a nightmare sociopath who enslaves a people, and like the minions themselves are stupid, like they're really, really dumb. I look forward to the Dems coming out with a report that COVID came from a Russian lab leak. Yeah, exactly. The Blue Anon crew. The Blue Anon crew will come out and be like, it was Russia the whole time! Russia! That Russiagate stuff, dude. Holy cow. Like, you have to be, like, thick. Like, how is it the case that Russia is, like, we won the Cold War, USA, but Russia can decide our elections? Like, what are you, dumb? I mean, the answer is obviously yes, but like, and it's this Russiagate stuff that has me saying, like, if you're like a Dem, like a vote blue no matter who, you're as stupid, if not stupider, than the QAnon people, right? Ontario Education Minister reveals details of new grade 9 math curriculum. Ontario's new grade 9 math course, which will be the first to eliminate the practice of streaming, will involve more real-life applications of the subject and include lessons on financial literacy and coding. I mean, let's be really clear what they're doing here, okay? When they say financial literacy, what they mean is how to work for capitalists more effectively. That's what financial literacy means. It means how can you work for capitalists better? And the coding thing, I've heard plenty of people arguing that, like, the push for coding is not so that we can improve the lives of workers, it's so that we can lower the wage of workers, right? Because if you have 1,000 coders, you have to pay them a certain wage. But if you have 2,000 coders, well, then you can tell 500 of those coders to get fucked and dump off, and then reduce the wage of the remaining coders, right? That's what it's all about. And so when they're embedding this stuff in the education system, they're for sure doing it to just be like, oh yeah, you should know how to work for capitalists better and let us lower your wages. Like, here's the stuff that Jen Zedong is saying. Do you think we can actually defeat the imperialists? I don't want to die in another world war. Oh, yeah. Undercover cops posing as drug buyers attempt to buy drugs from undercover cops posing as drug dealers. Everyone tries to arrest everyone else and a fist fight breaks out in the street. Like, defund these people. Like, it's so ridiculous. And all over, like, drugs? Who gives a shit? Like, decriminalize this stuff. Financial literacy, like home economics, coding is being replaced because of automation. Yeah, I mean, it is true that, like, machine learning is getting to the point now where, like, a lot of the coding is being done by machines themselves. So, and I just, like, why would we ever believe that the Ford administration is trying to do something to help us? Like, they're obviously not. There's 25% of the populace is gullible enough to still support him, but may your Pride Month be intergalactic. Alright, cool. No landlord, no rent. Problem solved. Landlords hate him. Yeah. Try this new trick to pay no rent. Yeah. Like, and what's crazy about this, right? Like, I don't consider myself a Maoist, but, like, but I don't demonize Mao, right? Like, I understand where Mao was coming from, but, like, the younger generation is literally saying stuff like this, and the capitalists continuously raise their rent and continuously do everything they can to make their lives harder. It's like they're begging for a revolution. It's like they're begging for it. Hey, Demand Better, how you doing, bud? Glad you popped in. Like, why would you, if you're a capitalist right now, maybe read the room, like maybe read the room, maybe put two and two together, maybe actually support like even the most modest of reform. But even our liberals are now like turning into total sociopaths, right? Like they're not acting like liberals. Like liberals, absolutely we need a revolution. I crave for a revolution. I crave a revolution, man. Like what liberals are supposed to do is offer piecemeal reform. That's how liberals operate. That's why they get into power. Because you have, on the far right, you have the conservatives who are rapacious sociopaths. And then to the left of them, still on the right, are liberals who are supposed to say are also rapacious sociopaths, but at least will throw crumbs at the populace to get them to put the pitchforks and torches down. But now the liberals aren't even doing that, right? Like, why are we still supporting these people? And yet 50% of the society is like, well, I gotta vote liberal because if I don't, then the conservative will, then I forgot. Like a pack of fucking morons. I believe there's some young people who have turned leftist because of student debt, who could potentially be bought off if the Dems relieve their... Exactly, it doesn't even look like they'll even do that. And that could be done through presidential decree, right? That could actually be done through presidential decree. He doesn't need the House, he doesn't need the Senate, he could just do that, right? It would be in their interest, but it violates their ideology. Exactly. Like, we are in this space where people are worshiping, right? People are worshiping this shit. And, like, if you are in a state of worship, then you are unreasonable. Like, these guys, these neoliberals are as delusional as flat earthers. It's just that they have money. That's it. Angus Reid Premier Approval Ratings, June 2021. Yeah, you love to see it. I mean, I'm aghast that it's this high, right? I'm aghast that there's 35%. That's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting that 35% of of Ontario still supports Doug Ford. That's despicable. Like, the people who are still answering I support Doug Ford to this, these people are like, that's gross. Like, if I met somebody who was actually saying, like, I'm going to vote for Doug Ford, I would just spit on them. Like, just a despicable non-human. They saw how much giving people money helped the economy too, but they won't do it again for ideological reasons. And what's crazy about that is, like, you've even got, like, the Pentagon, the Rand Corporation, right? These high-level government institutions are saying things like, yeah, giving people money actually helps the economy. It makes it better, right? Not going to happen. You see that Trudeau rented an Ottawa hotel as a quarantine hotel for himself instead of one of the hotels in the big four cities. Yeah. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. Because he knows that the people who are going to vote for him are going to vote for him, right? And, like, because he knows that the people who are voting for him are just as gullible and stupid as the people who are voting conservative. So he can do what he wants. He can just fuck around, right? Which is exactly what he's doing. All right, guys. I got to take a quick bathroom break, okay? I'll be right back. Be right back. Okay, and why don't we give Mr. Poops, how do we give Milo some peanut butter? Huh? What do you think, buddy? You want some peanut butter? Peanut butter time. Yeah, for the pug. Yeah, peanut butter time for my little dog. Do. Get some PB now. Do. Peanut butter time. Boo, boo, boo. Yeah. PB. Do, do, do. Yeah. Yeah. So don't be like, acting out, fertilizer running out. Here you go, buddy boy. He's a good boy. Good boy, buddy. Good boy. You're a good boy, buddy. All right. And we're back. Butilla calling on the Ontario government to commit to actionable items on reconciliation. Ha! That's adorable. Ontario must include the history of residential schools and Indigenous peoples in Ontario in our curriculum. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Our children must be taught the true history of Canada's genocide on Indigenous people. Nope. Just nope. That's not going to happen. Like, these guys don't give a fuck about that at all, right? They're literally publishing articles like this, dude. Like, this is where conservatives are. They're not over here. They're not living. Oh, I closed it. Oh, hey, it's right at the top. Perfect. Thanks, Reddit. Helpful. I mean, upvote it, but like, it's not gonna happen, right? They're saying this. They don't give a fuck about this at all. They're not gonna teach people the truth. Like, that's not gonna happen. I mean, good for you for bringing it up, and good for you for fighting it, so that we can all see that they're not gonna do that. How Canada failed its Indigenous population every chance it could. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, obviously wrong about transgender people. It drives me crazy that Ben Shapiro has, like, a popular show. Like, should there be survivors in, like, 50 years, people are going to look back and look at Ben Shapiro and be like, did nobody get that this guy was, like, an open fascist? Did nobody understand that, like, this guy was, like, literally a Nazi and was just being a Nazi and nobody fucking said anything about it? It's like, yeah, there were people saying stuff about it, but they get deprioritized, right? Whereas, you know, he's a trust fund baby with a silver spoon up his ass, and so he gets the... Ben Shapiro is the ultimate truth, that if you have millions of dollars when you're born, like, you can do what you want and you'll be successful, because he's always wrong. Like, he doesn't actually have points. He is an idiot. And he's the worst kind of idiot, right? He's an idiot who has never worked a day in his life, who has no idea what's happening outside of the palace that he lives in. And then when he sees what's happening, because of his own voting and his own actions, he blames the people he victimizes. Like, he's a total moron. And, like, we're just going to look back at him and just be like, well, the fact that this guy was, was popular, it's just disgusting. Many half-wits keep insisting that Chinese communism didn't fight Japan during World War II. Well, let's take a look at this map, which was made by the U.S. military intelligence at the time. The striped and checkered areas represent the areas that the communists controlled in early 1945. Okay. I love maps. Yeah, critical race theory, exactly. Well, because critical race theory is completely accurate, right? Like, and they can't tolerate it. Like, we are talking about people who, like, deny the existence of global warming, right? Like, let's be really clear, okay? There are, like, Rex Murphy, right? Huge swaths of the Conservative Party. They literally put to a vote a single liner that said, they call it anti-American. Yeah, I'd like to hear what Americanism means from it. Well, when you're a white supremacist, right? Mach Deutschland vom Fascismus frei. How'd I do, bud? Mach. Is it Macht? Do you say the T? Or is it Mach? Macht. Deutschland. Deutschland I know because I've heard that a bunch. Vom Faschismus. Faschismus? Frei. Good to see you, bud. I always appreciate it when you're here. You're on point, bud. You always have, like, really good stuff. You keep me honest, which that's super important. The communists controlled Manchuria, which was where most of the Sino-Japanese fighting took place. Yeah. And like, why? But and this all ties into what I was saying. Like, so these guys denied the existence of climate change. Like, that's it, right? Like, if you are still listening to these guys being like, oh yeah, they have interesting things to say about critical race theory. Oh, they've got interesting things to say about this, that, or the other thing. Then you're a sucker, right? You're just a sucker. Like, these guys are standing in front of you and saying, yeah, you know that invading army that's coming to destroy us and kidnap your family? Yeah, that it doesn't exist. That's what they're doing. And, like, if you still buy into anything they say, you're a fucking rube. Like, but that's like 50% of the populace. Yeah, I remember Chomsky talking about the totalitarian language of anti-Americanism and how they don't do that in other countries. Well, because it's just a way to shut down discourse, right? It's just a way to, like, oh, you're saying that, you must be anti-American. So instead of keeping on, like, the point and focusing on what's actually happening and having a discussion about what's actually happening, now you're having a completely different discussion where you have to defend your patriotism or defend your Americanism, right? Like, and it is a way to just shut down discourse, and it's not serious. And in my view, that's how I treat it. Anytime anybody comes at me with that kind of nonsense, I just treat it as if it's a concession. Like, it's just them. They don't have anything better to say. It's stupid, right? Like, and that's exactly how I treat it when people start talking that way to me. I'll say something, and they'll just, oh, that's. Why don't you go move somebody else? And I'll literally just be like, you know what? I don't need to talk to babies. Like, that's baby talk. Like, go get the fuck out of here. And like, but Canadians are so like polite and so like, oh yes, sir, sir, I'm so sorry for offending you. Let's have this pointless, meaningless conversation with you, grown baby man. Like, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, leaked IRS documents confirm the rich don't pay taxes. Like, we know. Like, we know. like we know. These guys need to have everything stripped. Like, they just need to no longer be part of the society. The real divide in America is whether you believe in America, whatever that means. In 2016, the right said, make America great again. Hillary stupidly said, America is already great. And you had a thin sliver of you people in the streets saying, America was never great. Believing America is good, or at least can be salvaged, is a religion, yeah? Usually associated with an oppressive, cage-the-mind optimism. I know, young people in the streets. I know, Onward. I was just razzing you. I was just razzing you. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I have a conversation with somebody who, like Americans are just starting to realize that, like, they were always genocidal maniacs, right? Like, people treat, like, Donald Trump, and I find that, like, young voters are especially like that, like, oh, Trump was bad and he was a fascist, and then, like, we get back, and then you come to Biden and Biden's doing the exact same stuff, and you're like, well, isn't that, like, what do you think about that? And the amount of, like, hair splitting, like, no, Biden's just a neoliberal, like, Trump was a fascist, Biden's a neoliberal, and I'm like, what's the fucking difference? And then you start talking to them about, like, the history of America, and they're like, well, if this is what you believe, then Americans were fascists back in the 20s. And I'm like, now you're figuring it out, bud. Like, now you're fucking figuring it out. Like, if you're living in South America, right, at any point during the American colonial period to the modern era, you don't really make a distinction between fascism and neoliberalism and capitalism, right? Like, you get blown up. It doesn't matter what they call themselves. And, like, if you're living if you're living in the Middle East right now, I don't think it matters to these people who are getting their lives destroyed and uprooted if you call yourself a neoliberal or a fascist, right? Or a capitalist, for that matter, right? Like, what's the distinction? And, like, you steadily start to realize that, like, what they're trying to say, like, they're trying to salvage their own identity, right? That's what it really comes down to. That they're just trying to salvage their own identity. But their identity is deeply rooted in slavery and genocide, right? And how do we know that's true? Because that's exactly what they did, right? Like, when they were coming over here, they were bringing lots of black slaves over. When they came over here, they committed a genocide against the First Nations people, not to mention what happened in South America. My opinion is, like, what happened in South America was way more egregious than what happened in, like, they were both horrific events. I mean, to compare and contrast them is sort of ridiculous to do, honestly. But, like, there are Incan temples. Like, there are pyramids, for God's sakes. Like, the Aztecs and the Incans were, like, a civilization that just got completely wiped out. Like, totally wiped out. There's no Aztec reserves. There's no Incan reserves. They just got obliterated. They just got pushed into the oceans. Like, unbelievable. No systemic racism, though. No systemic racism. Pride flag violently ripped down and stolen from Burlington, Ontario home. Yeah. That's probably just idiot kids, right? Like, who cares? Just a boat full of Antifa coming home after World War II. Yeah. It used to be cool to kill Nazis. Like, when like, I knew people who had killed Nazis, and we were supposed to look at them and be like, yeah, great. You're a hero. We give you medals. You get to sit on a float, you know, and we celebrate, like when we do like Remembrance Day or something, right? Like, we take a look at the people who literally shot and killed Nazis and go, awesome. And now suddenly we're supposed to let these guys talk and speak in public, and if we tell them to get fucked, then it's their free speech and all this kind of nonsense, and we're having these absurdist conversations. Like, hey, can we get back to the time where it was cool to just kill Nazis? Can we do that? I'd like to. It's just fucking embarrassing, right? I mean, good for the, let's take a look at this. Ontario provincial voting intentions from Angus Reid Institute. Just a total embarrassment. 37% for the piece for the Conservatives. Just a total flagrant embarrassment. Like, we are a very stupid people. 37% support for the Conservatives. Why? Like, he hasn't lowered anybody's taxes. He hasn't done anything to actually help anybody. And he slashed, he's taking $500 million out of the healthcare budget. He's attacked literally every group. There isn't a single group that he has not attacked. And he has 37% support. Like, we are an extremely gullible people. Like, this is an indictment of us on a deeply moral and ethical level that we I would expect, like, if we were a rational society, I mean, if we were a rational society, it would be zero, obviously. But, like, I could accept, like, maybe 12%. If he was polling at about 12%, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. I can believe that there's, like, 1 out of every 10 people I meet are just a rapacious, raging sociopath or, like, totally stupid and gullible. But, like, 37%, 4 out of every 10, right? 40% of the society are just, like, raging hard on, let's get bigger tent cities, these people just need to get jobs, oh, you're just being lazy. Like, really? We deserve everything we get as a people. Like, this is something I absolutely fundamentally believe, is that if we are going to continuously vote this way, we deserve to be wiped out. Like, we deserve it. We have it coming. It is coming. And when it happens, we deserve every moment of it, because we're flamingly stupid. Now, that said, the NDP, I would have thought he'd be hurting, like, least... First of all, hi, Wigwith, how you doing, bud? Thanks for popping in. I would have thought he would be hurting least Jason Kenney got hit in the polls big time over the pandemic. Yeah, Dougie really pulled a number on people with these come on guys. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's because Dougie has the, like, good old boy attitude built, like, down, right? Like, he speaks to his voters. He knows how stupid they are. Like, he knows that all, like, buck a beer, hydro, that's all it took. That's all it took for him to get elected the first time, remember? Right? Like, his whole election was buck a beer, hydro. And anytime anybody asked him something like, hey, there's a basic income pilot program, are you going to shut that down? He just lied, right? He's just like, nah, we'll totally leave that there. Yeah, for sure. And people were just like, oh, Dougie said, yeah, he's going to vote. I know, buddy. Doug Ford sets me off too, bud. You're absolutely right. Like, and here's the silver lining, okay? If there is one, is that the NDP are actually polling well ahead of the Liberals, which is how it should be, right? Like, nobody knows who Steve Del Duca is. He's an empty. He doesn't have a seat. He's never had any political power, right? At all. And you're telling me that there was a period of time where people were like, yeah, let's vote for the no-name liberal that nobody knows, right? Instead of the, like, literal leader of the opposition who has been working her ass off to keep pushing on the Ontario government to even pass the most modest, like, reforms ever. Like, remember the sick day thing? And finally Doug Ford, like, goes, oh, I guess we'll do, like, 3 temporarily, like, because he's a fucking sociopath, and people love it, right? People love it. People love how goddamn sociopathic this guy is, and they're total gullible rubes. Like the Arthur story that he told, like on the internet, people were making fun of this Arthur story, but like little old white ladies probably ate that shit right up. And this is why he's a grifter, right? Because he knows that his evangelical Christian base, nobody talks about this, but it's the absolute truth. He has an evangelical Christian base, right, who is completely gullible, and he can be like, and I talked to little child Arthur, and Arthur wanted me to open it up, and so, folks, I think I will. And people are just like, oh yeah, babe, Arthur, oh yeah, oh, he's such a good man. He's such a good man. Oh, Doug Ford, he's such a good man. Like, it's fucking embarrassing. It's just a fucking embarrassment. And what I fully expect to see, going into the campaign, I fully expect to see the NDP totally fucking botch the campaign because they don't know how to run a campaign. They're like incompetent. They are very stupid when it comes to running campaigns. They need to fire their whole campaign management team and put in people like me who are literally like, what are you doing with this quirky, kicky, like, vote the third option, kicky, like, bullshit? Get rid of that. Like, take a look at a tent city, get mad, start talking about how, hey, have you noticed how we're fucking abandoning people? Like, have you noticed? Which, of course, 37% of the populace doesn't give a shit about that at all. But I fully expect to see a flip in these numbers because ultimately the Liberals are smarter than the NDP. They're better propagandists. They know how to talk to morons, right? If you go to Steve Del Duca's Twitter feed, right? Go to Steve Del Duca's Twitter feed, and you'll see a guy who understands how to talk to morons, right? Like he's like Andrea Horwath and the NDP will be like, and what the Ontario PCs are doing is unacceptable, right? And Steve Del Duca's like, this guy's a fucking idiot. What a shameful failure. We need to get rid of this fucking moron. And I like look at Steve Del Duca's Twitter feed and I'm like, yeah, everything he's saying should be coming out of the mouth of Andrea Horwath, but she's a substitute teacher. Like she's not good at campaigning. I think in terms of like her work as a politician, she's excellent. But in terms of her like ability to actually run a campaign, it's super fucking frustrating to watch. Like when Tom Mulcair completely destroyed his chances. He should have been the Prime Minister of Canada. Like, and I believe that very strongly. And then he just comes out in the campaign instead of doing what people wanted, which is to come out and eviscerate people. To be like, hey, have you noticed how we're collapsing into poverty and how it's completely the Liberals and the Conservatives' fault and how you guys should be voting for literally anybody else if you want a sane, rational future of any kind? Instead of saying shit like that, he was like, hi, I'm Tom Mulcair. I'm the third option. Mulcair? Healthcare. Fucking idiot. It's hard to move forward when a third of the population believes anything, as long as it aligns with their personal hatreds. Like trying to run with a ball and chain. Yeah, it's absolutely the truth, man. Like, and that's exactly what's... And unfortunately, like, we're on a sinking ship carrying this ball and chain, and it's just going to make us sink faster. What I always considered odd was that the poor, disabled, homeless are a large enough voting bracket, but we are still ignored by the government because we are purposefully disorganized. And I say purposefully disorganized because it's divide and conquer, right? That, like, they need, like, poor people who live in tent cities are over here, right? They have their own group and their own organizations. Disabled people are over here, right? They live in their own world and they have their own, they have to deal with a completely different bureaucracy, right? Homeless people go over here and you put them in little pockets, right? So that they don't actually talk to one another ever, because the government organizations that you have erected to deal with them don't talk to one another. And these groups, as long as they don't talk to one another and form a, like, federated body, or get under a third-party non-affiliated organization like Socialist Action, then you can do what you like to them, and you can convince them to go with you, right? And yeah, maybe it's time they change that. Maybe it's time to start going under other umbrella organizations like Socialist Action. Maybe it's time to actually start creating political power under other organizations that go into organizations like the NDP and say, do what we want or we won't vote for you. Or maybe do what Jagmeet Singh did, which is take the whole thing over, right? Jagmeet Singh came out of nowhere and he just took the whole thing over. How did he do it? He got his buddies together and they all went and voted. Because fundamentally, politics is a numbers game. If they have 100 people and you have 1,000 people, you win, right? And so if you're in the situation as the leaders of the country working for sociopaths, where you have 100 people and they have 1,000 people, well, then you need to find a way to break 50% of those people off, funnel them into some kind of worthless endeavor, right? Break another 100 off, funnel them here, funnel them there, and then even trick some of those people into voting for you, right? Lie to them and say that you'll do, like, electoral reform or something, right? Bullshit them and be like, oh yeah, we've got a basic income bill, it's being pushed through. We're very genuine about that, yeah. We genuinely care about the fact that you're homeless. And if you believe that, you're just a fucking rube. If you're not at least middle class, you're a non-citizen in your own country and your problems are ignored, the state serves a purely punitive function for you. Exactly. It's absolutely the case. Like, we were always told, like, growing up, we were like, what's the future going to look like? Is it going to be Orwell or Huxley? And as we've gotten older, we're saying, oh, no, it's Huxley for the complicit, and it's Orwell for the rebellious, right? That if you are on board with the corporate state owning everything, then you get Huxleyed, right? You can just live in this delusional land of drugs and hallucinations and digital hallucinations and all of this, and your interaction with the political system is just showing up at a booth one day and putting your checkbox on somebody's name, right? And that's as political as you ever get. And as long as you stay at that level, then yeah, you'll just be constantly bombarded by, like, all of this digital nonsense and distraction and Kim Kardashian and all this. But if you actually wake up for even a minute and go, like, all of that seems like total fucking bullshit and is in fact draining our life force away, well, then here's a police officer with his boot on your back, right? Why can't they do it? Laziness, too much work. We've got to do a Stacey Abrams for this community of forgotten. I don't know who Stacey Abrams is. Let's take a look. It's not laziness or too much work, right? It's a purpose. It's done on purpose. Like, so let's say, oh yeah, I know who you're talking about, Stacey Abrams. Let's say Yes, you know who Stacey Abrams is, yeah. But okay, so let's say, like, take a look at the history of civil rights throughout the United States. This is actually a really great example because there are very clear examples, right? That that liberals and conservatives, well, not conservatives so much, but liberals are totally fine if a guy like Martin Luther King stands up and starts talking about civil rights issues for the black community, okay? Like, for the black community. Where he starts to become a problem is that he starts to align himself with poor white communities, right? And he starts talking about things like a basic income. He starts talking about economics. He starts talking about the larger systems, right? So instead of him being isolated in the black community, even though he's quite influential in the black community, well, now suddenly he's creating other inroads to the white community. And he's creating other inroads to the Hispanic community. And he's starting to talk about money, right? So this guy needs to be assassinated, right? This guy just needs to be taken out. And they did. And incidentally, that's not a conspiracy theory. The United States government itself admitted it. Like, you can Google it. And like, that's the same story for Malcolm X. It's the same story for a lot of civil rights people. And so if somebody created, like, if you, because what always happens is that you feel isolated, you feel disconnected, so you create your own organization, right? Like, hi, hello, what am I doing, right? I'm creating an organization, right? Here I am. And so, but as long as I remain isolated, and so I'm trying to reach out to other organizations and trying to find those inroads, and if your organization, and if that effort becomes big enough, well, guess what happens? Suddenly you have CSIS agents, CIA agents embedding themselves into your organization to purposefully disrupt it, right? And that purposeful disruption is done intentionally in order to keep us all separated from one another. Yeah, Ruth, but she did more for the black-brown community in getting them to the voting booth than anyone else, and Trump lost. She bussed them, got them registered, and informed them. Yep, that's important work. But like here, and here's what I think is like the most important thing, is that people need to really recognize that the Democrats, that especially the old guard of Democrats, like they're not going to do anything, right? Like, these Democrats are not going to actually confront Capitol. They're not actually going to do it. And you can see it. Like, the Democrats have plenty of power. They could be doing a lot of things right now. But they're not going to do any of that because their corporate owners don't want them to. Right? And it's as simple as that. They just want the orange man gone. Well, and it's a really good strategy to blame all of the problems, to scapegoat a single individual, right? It's exactly what Western capitalism did to Hitler, right? When you stop and think about it, right? They scapegoated Hitler. They said that Hitler was the problem, and it allowed them to completely ignore the long history of capitalism that led to Hitler, right? And then when capitalists do something as egregious as Hitler, they can just pretend like it's not systemic or pretend like it's not built into the capitalist structure. Yeah, quit whining. I just got back from brunch and everything is great. Aviators. Yeah. 2 promises Biden is keeping. Nothing fundamentally will change and no ban on fracking. There you go. Yeah, that's right. Biden's a promise keeper. You're absolutely right about this, Lonnie. He didn't bullshit us on a couple of things. Nothing will fundamentally change and no ban on fracking. Yeah, like, the insanity of it is just, it's too much to bear. Yeah, Canadian cities no longer amongst the top most livable according to The Economist. Yeah, because you can't live here, right? Like, I fully expect that I'm going to have to move out of this city. Like, I don't want to, obviously. I love living here. I have friends here. I've built a life here. But, like, the rent is absurd, and it's only going to continue going up. Like, it just has to continue going up. And because we're not doing anything to confront capital. We're not doing anything to actually do anything about these rents or these housing prices. And so, yeah, if you let billionaires buy up your market, what do you think is going to fucking happen? Guatemala in Guatemala. I don't know what that means, but I like the way it rolls off my tongue. New Jersey mailman, 26, faces up to 5 years in prison for dumping 99 ballots in the trash that were meant for voters in heavily Democratic suburbs. Just despicable. And it's the Republicans standing up and saying there was voter fraud. This map is untenable now, but with a median level UBI, $3,000 a month, it becomes a lot less daunting. With $36,000 a year to every American, this map becomes a blueprint for how we can grow. The heartland would absolutely boom, and overpriced urban centers would become more sustainable. Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, I do genuinely think that the capitalists will, at some point, attempt to pass a basic income. And just because they're out of ideas, right? Just because, like, literally they're going to have so many people in these tent cities, like so many abandoned people, that eventually these abandoned people will just start showing up at places, right? Because they've been abandoned, they're not connected to anything, right? Like, they're just going to start showing up to places. And so, because the neoliberal capitalists are sociopaths, right? They're going to let that happen until they feel threatened. And then finally, they'll pass a basic income in the hopes that it'll work. But of course, because they're sociopaths, they'll do everything they can to make sure that it doesn't. But they'll try. They'll try. Set in concrete. In a first, Kabul builds $5 million road via tough terrain to access China. China, more than any other countries of the world, wants stability in Afghanistan. Boy, does China ever want stability in Afghanistan. I tell you what. Like, if there was anybody... Do I not have a map open? There we go. If there's anybody who wants stability in Afghanistan, it's China, right? Like, they are sick and tired of the CIA funneling people through the Wakhan corridor. They're sick and tired of the CIA funneling terrorists in through this region, boy. Like, that's what this is all about, right? Like, China would really love to stop spending resources on, like, high-level security measures in order to protect their own citizens, which then get turned around by Western media being like, well, they're so authoritarian. It's like, dude, like, look what happened after 9/11 in America. Like, a whole shit ton of security measures got put in. Well, you're funneling terrorists in through Afghanistan into Xinjiang. Yeah, they're going to put in a whole fuck ton of security measures. Like, what do you think? They're in war. Oh, you need the map song? Okay, you know what? Let's do it. Wigwith, by popular request. We're opening a map because I want to. We're doing it for Wigwith. Any excuse to open maps for Wigwith. We did it. It's a map. It's a map. We're looking at the map for you, Wigwith, from the bottom of my heart. We have fun here. We try to have fun. That's actually a really big story. Like, if Kabul builds a $5 million road, that's actually a pretty big story. Like, can I get a picture of this road? Is this their road? Oh, you bet. I mean, like the only reason why China is not involving... Okay, I gotta close some of this stuff. Anyway, the only reason that China is not involving Afghanistan in the Belt and Road Initiative is because of America. Like, and so I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that like a city like Kabul itself is just like, man, we just gotta get a road. We just, like, look at this. So there's no road, right? Imagine that okay, here we go. So there's kind of a road here. So imagine they continued this road. And you can see it's all very mountainous. It's, like, very difficult. You can even see there's, like, a little bit of a path here. But, like, if they could turn this into, like, a high-speed rail, if they could actually get the infrastructure in place, let's follow that road. Where is that road? So that road continues. skirts the border. Oh, now it's like on the waterway, which is pretty traditional, right? But if they could actually update this infrastructure so that this road was like a high-speed rail, or they could even get like semi-trucks or something through here. Oh, the road disappeared. The road disappeared. I lost it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, this road's gonna disappear soon. Like, road, and it hits Sarhad and then ends, right? So they literally do not have even a road going from Sarhad, from here to connect to here. It just doesn't exist. Oh, here we go. Road from the other direction. Google Maps, I love it. I love it. Future technology that idiots like me. So, Keke Tuluke? That's, first of all, let's be straight. That's a fun name to say. Keke Tuluke? I could say that all day. Keke Tuluke. Keke Tuluke. Keke Tuluke. That's just fun to say. That's right, Lonnie. You get the map song twice. You're double blessed. You're double blessed. I'm so happy that the map song is becoming like a feature. It's completely inconsistent. There's absolutely no consistency whatsoever in the map songs. And I think that's the way I like it. So, where the heck was that other... So it's like way over here. Yeah, it's like way over... So Sarhad's over there. So they just need to build a road from here to here. And then probably upgrade it. Anyway. That's actually a really big story. Because, like, trade is peace, right? This is a thing that I continuously say and I continually remind people. Which is why I'm like... Okay, first of all, like... This is why I'm more in favor of China than I am in favor of the West. Like, who is China at war with? Right? There have been, like, minor border skirmishes recently between Chinese forces and Pakistani forces, if I recall correctly. No, that can't be right, because it's, like, way the F over here. Anyway. I know that China has, like, been involved in some minor border skirmishes recently, but... Like, who are they waging full-scale war against, right? And when you actually look at the Belt and Road Initiative map, right, what do you find? What do you find? I gotta find a better place for this. Forget this. Anyway, what do you find? Well, if they've built this infrastructure in all of these places, it is reasonable to assume that they have peaceful intentions, right? Like, there's a railway that China built through Belarus, through Europe. It makes sense, and it's very believable that they would want to be at peace with these places. And if they're making plans for, like, roads in Africa, it makes sense that they would want to be at peace with these places. Meanwhile, America is, like, launching sanctions on half the world. Like, why am I more supportive of China than the United States? Because the United States is engaged in a massive world war that they are the Nazis of, right? Like, they are the Nazis in the world war. Like, and there's just no way to, like, I can't see it any other way. And meanwhile, China is just, like, steadily building a railway, and we're all like, oh, railway! All right, fucking get over it. How Marxist critiques work. Their horses and goods are untouched. That's kind of funny. Oh, here we go. Lord of the Chipmunks. You gotta pause for fun stuff. Our Ontario does really good stuff. Like, come on. Is he gonna get all of those nuts in his cheeks, you guys? Is he gonna... Oh, he bolted. He got all the food, he just left. Super cute. Super cute. Yeah, Doug Ford to invoke Constitution's notwithstanding clause after judge rejects election finance reforms. This guy's such a fraud. This guy's such a fucking phony. Well, well, yeah, well, 37% of the populace super loves him. Yeah, this doctor tried to raise alarms about residential schools 100 years ago, but was ignored. No systemic racism, though, guys. No systemic racism. As a Dutchman, I get universal health care, excellent roads, good public transport, and easily accessible high-quality education. As American, you get to dream that you too will be rich someday. It's odd that we're the capitalists, but when China starts to win, we suddenly need state interference. Oh yeah, interesting. It's almost as though capitalism doesn't work. Interesting. SS St. Louis. What are you telling me about here about SS St. Louis? It's the ship of Jewish refugees nobody wanted. On May 13th, 1939, more than 900 Jews fled Germany aboard a luxury cruise liner, the SS St. Louis. They hoped to reach Cuba and then travel to the U.S., but were turned away in Havana and forced to return to Europe, where more than 250 were killed by the Nazis. Ooh. Tragedy all over the place, man. And it's just so fucking, like, what, for what? Like, for what? Like, what did anybody gain there? Ontario. We're going to slowly reopen the province. So no more lockdowns, right? Yeah. There's a pretty thick anti-lockdown movement here in Ontario, so... Do you agree with Matt Christman that cancel culture and the sanctimoniousness that comes with it is a busy box? It's feeling like a psyop at this point. I mean, I think, yeah, there's definitely a piece of that. Like, if I'm the CIA, I'm absolutely using this as a way to split groups up, right? But I also do think that there is like a healthy dose of moral purity that exists, and that there are people who genuinely do feel that if they have a small shred of power, that they don't need to be rational or reasonable or have conversation, that they can use that power and they should wield that power to like cut people out. And it's nothing new, right? Like, and it's a big reason why the left can't get organized, because the left eats itself, right? That you can't have like minor disagreements. That if somebody, like, here's a great example of what I'm talking about. So I did a video and had some conversations on a Reddit that is a leftist Reddit, and it was about trans issues, because the Halifax Pride severed its ties with the Toronto Library, because the Toronto Library refused to, the Halifax Library refused to ban a book by Abigail Shrier, which is just like the stupidest book that exists about trans people ever. And so they severed their ties. And I said that the book was horrible, but if you start to ban books, then the right wing is also going to start to ban books, right? That the library system can be used for political gamesmanship. And if you open up that can of worms, then you might not be able to put a lid back on it. And the librarians know this because they've experienced exactly this. And so their position is, we're not going to take a political stance. You guys work this all out, that's fine. But we don't want our institution to start being used for political purposes, and to be used as like a token or a bargaining chip in political gamesmanship. And so I started saying this, and I got banned. It was a temporary ban, mind you, but like, and so the conclusion is, okay, I just can't talk about trans rights. I can't say trans things. I can't have an opinion on this subreddit, right? And it's like, that's what the left does. It just gobbles itself up and eats itself up, so that I, an ally of the trans community and somebody who would fight for trans rights, and who did a video about how fucking stupid this book was by Abigail Shrier, like an absolute ridiculous piece. But I can be alienated from this group, and this group will and ultimately, if this is your strategy, like, you're alienating yourself, and that what Pride Halifax has done is alienated itself from an ally. Like, the library system provides resources; it's an ally, and this kind of thing has always existed, and of course, the CIA and the CSIS will use this tactic as well. But I think that this is a tactic that's well ingrained inside the consciousness of leftist organizations, and it's something that we really need to address. It's quite serious, because, like, if we're constantly alienating and fighting and separating ourselves, the capitalists aren't doing that, right? The capitalists are happily moving forward in a block. People should be punished for saying bad things. It just feels like it's taking up all the oxygen in the room. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, so right now, culturally, because we're talking about cancel culture, we're not actually talking about the issue itself, right? So instead of talking about the issue, we're talking about whether or not it's okay to talk about the issue, right? And that's a win for capitalists. Like, that's a win. And that's something that leftists need to kind of realize, that if what we're doing is having a conversation about cancel culture and having a conversation about authoritarian actions for wanting to shut people down and all of that, then that's a major victory, because then we're not actually talking about the issue itself, right? We're not talking about Abigail Shrier and how horrifically brutal this book is. We're talking about the authoritarianism of the left and how they want to shut down free speech, right? Which is a complete win for the capitalist class. It's a total win. As long as we're talking about this, we will never actually talk about this. Left unity is a necessary strategy for power and people's mental health. Exactly. It's completely exactly. Ruth, I got a 3-day suspension because the computer doesn't get context, and I was speaking about a vaccine and said getting a shot instead of a vaccine. Oh, yeah, okay. Was that like an automatic one? They thought that you were talking about like a shot, like bang bang? Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I mean, like, there just does come a point where we need to become more forgiving of one another. That, like, we are going to make mistakes. There are going to be people on the left who have bad takes. It's just, or even if they're not a bad take, like, you're just going to disagree with them, right? It's going to happen. I guarantee that there is an opinion that I have that you don't agree with. It's statistically the most likely thing. And when you espouse that opinion and we have a conversation about it and a disagreement, even if that gets heated, if we end that conversation on this, like, minor point that, oh, well, now I'm not going to talk to you and I'm not going to include you and I'm going to keep you away, that's a huge win for capitalism. It's a huge win for capitalism, right? Like, as long as the issue isn't something like, we should eradicate the Jews, like, not a small issue, right? But we just need to become more forgiving and find ways to, and there's a pettiness that comes to it too, because now I'm no longer banned, right? And so I still post on that subreddit, and what happens? Well, this person who I had this disagreement with brings it up again and starts chirping about it again and tries to shame me for my views, which I can't I can't actually fight back. I can't actually talk back, because if I do, I'll get banned again, right? So what do I have to do? Well, all I can do is just block this person. Is that a victory? Is that a win? Who wins? Who's the winner here? Right? Ukraine's Zelensky begs Biden for meeting on Zoom call. How many Ukrainian lives does the relationship between the United States and Germany cost? I don't know enough about this situation. I have to be truly honest. I don't know enough about the situation in Ukraine. It seems very tumultuous. It seems like there's a lot of, like, neo-fascist organizations going, especially in this territory here. I do know their economy is still struggling. I do know that, like, neoliberalism has not helped Ukraine. Cancel culture feels like giving up and surrendering to doing more important, harder things. Yeah, I'm reading a book right now about the CIA's Operation Chaos in the 60s, and this all feels very familiar. Yeah. Look, and part of the annoying thing about the people who are dedicated to this cause of cancel culture is like these people never organize and go offline, right? Like as long as we keep everything just digitally and we just keep communicating like online, the capitalists will ignore us, right? It's when we show up at their houses and park cars in their infrastructure, right? That's when they actually pay attention, because that actually has an effect, like to them. That matters. And so if the CIA can disrupt the organization of that and keep things kind of in this digital space, they will. And they need to keep us from actually mobilizing and actually getting out onto the street, which is where power actually lies. Fauci calls push for firing preposterous, says he's being attacked for following the science. Fauci has become something of a controversial figure, right? He has admitted to lying on several occasions. Like, he has admitted to misleading the public for reasons he considers to be justified. But, like, so it's, I don't know, it's just very, and the United States is such a cluster in the first place. Yeah, identity politics was used against Bernie. I don't think that was successful, though. I think the identity politics kind of backfired. I think there was a lot of blowback when they tried it with Bernie. And cancel culture was used against Pelosi's challenger. That's absolutely the truth. That's absolutely the truth. And, like, it really does come down to, because people are so angry, and, like, I understand where it's coming from. People are so angry, and, like, especially, like, people in the trans community are so afraid, right? There's a lot of fear going on because people in the trans community understand, especially, like, older trans people really understand that this momentary flare-up of tolerance towards trans people can disappear. It could disappear in a second, right? We could just go back to beating the shit out of these people, right? We absolutely could do that. And so when somebody stands up and says, like, hey, like, the library shouldn't ban a book even if it's anti-trans, right? I completely understand why there's, like, this high emotion, right? But and I completely believe that groups like the CIA would use that emotion to their own benefit. But, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's not about left and right, it's about up and down. That's exactly right, Onward. Like, we need to realize who our real enemies are, right? And, like, I don't give a crap if trans people think that I'm a despicable person for defending the library system, right? Like, I care if when push comes to shove, are they going to fight against the capitalists or not, right? Like, that's what really matters. Like, we can have these disagreements all we want, but at the end of the day, our enemy is the capitalists. And that's what we need to be. And so if you're going to, like, block me, or, like, you're going to disparage me, or you're going to, like, create problems for me as I attempt to organize against the capitalists, then you can't be my ally. Like, that's the unfortunate truth. And it's self-defeating, because, like, once it becomes in vogue to beat up trans people again, the capitalists will for sure just let that happen. Like, they don't give a fuck. And if they see it as profitable for them to beat the shit out of trans people, yeah, they'll for sure do it. We orchestrated a coup in Guatemala in the 1950s, ousting Arbenz, the first democratically elected president of Guatemala. The resulting conflict lasted until 1996. Now we have the nerve to tell them to not come to our country after we've exploited theirs and continue to. Yeah. That goes back to what I was talking about before, right? Like, it's absolutely asinine that we, like, look, Guatemala's, like, right there. We did, like, a coup here and created, like, just a catastrophe for these people. And now we're saying to them, like, oh yeah, don't come. Like, the same people who will say, you need to take responsibility for your actions, are completely disinterested in taking responsibility for this. Fox guessed, minorities are not worth $15 wages. Jeez fucking Louise. This guy here, good politic guy. I don't know if I've actually subscribed to him. Give me a second here. I'm gonna check because he's really good. He deserves. I'm so jealous of him. He's got 5K subscribers. I'm so jealous. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. He's brilliant. He does really, really good work. Yeah, but did you see Kamala's shoes? Oh yeah, you said something earlier about this. You said Kamala, which means, what did it mean? Yeah, it was so funny, and I just kind of blew by it. I wanted to mention it. Damn it, damn it. By this point, you've probably already. Oh yeah, how bad? Kamala means how bad. So it'd be what? Mucho Kamala? Is that right? Yeah, exactly. Did you see Kamala's shoes? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, I mean, I consider myself something of a fashionista, so I do care about Kamala's shoes. But I care about Kamala supporting, rapacious genocide a little bit more. And I can hold two views. She can be beautifully dressed while also committing atrocities. Like, those two things are not incompatible. Sometimes I say stupid shit. Like, sometimes I just say stupid shit. He's a good boy, buddy. I know. Kamala. What a terrible person. Quebec's Bill 96 is a second colonization. Wow, that's quite a statement. Canassa Grand Chief says. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by it. The leader of the Kanasatake? I think I did it. Kanasatake Mohawk community is demanding the Quebec government include the protection of a territory, language, and culture of Indigenous people in its bill, recognizing Quebec as a nation in the Canadian Constitution, and establishing French as their only official language. Oh yeah, I can see where he's going with this. They just, have left the First Nations people out of this. Represents nothing short of a second colonization of First Nations people and our territory. Yeah. And, it's not like Quebec has a big, long, sterling history of trying to maintain the rights of minority groups. Yeah. Good luck. Kanasatake. Good luck. So you're telling me that Lafayette Park was cleared so they could put up fencing, and that less than an hour later happened to be the exact time Trump wanted a Photoshop in front of a church? Is that a bit convenient to you? Yeah. I'm glad that this story is going around. Ford government to invoke notwithstanding clause to restrict election spending. I'm super glad that that's going around. What a dick. What a total dick. Literally, I'm for sure going to do a video about this one tomorrow. Because, he's not coming back to deal with the tent cities. He's coming back to try and shore up his election chances. What a fucking goon. What a goon. Yeah, wage slave gets lucky. Still has to be a wage slave. An Amazon delivery driver just won the Ohio Vax-A-Million lottery and says the first thing he plans to do is pay bills. Despite already working a full-time job at Amazon, he needed to literally win the lottery to pay down his bills and have a shot at buying his first home. Ugh. Yeah, it's just... And it is going to become like the Hunger Games. That the lottery is going to be it's not even going to be that they're going to give you money. It's going to be oh, you won the lottery, so now you have a chance to compete. That's what it's going to turn into. Who really invented smiling? Welcome to Revisionist Southern History. In this class, we'll be learning that the Civil War began when the North seceded from the Confederacy. The Union Army consisted entirely of homosexual vampires, and slaves were so happy they invented smiling. Yeah. The Man Show did a really good one on this, where they, had an interview with a fellow who did, revisionist white history, and they presented white people as like just trying their best, right? Slavery was so unfortunate, but we were actually nice during all that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Toronto City Council approves extension of COVID-19 bylaws. Physical distancing and mask bylaws extended until September 30th. That's fine. I gotta tell you, I am going to continue wearing the mask. I think that that's something I'm going to do when I go into establishments. I'm going to keep wearing the mask, and there's for one good reason. I have a history of getting sick about twice a year. 2 or 3 times a year I get sick. Since the pandemic began, I have not been sick one time. I just have not been sick. And so I'm going to keep wearing the masks when I go into establishments, right? I need to get better masks. All the masks I have are like weird, but and I think it's a good idea generally. I think that people should wear masks, right? Like it just feels like a good health decision that helps everybody out. Yeah, exactly. You see oppressed worker, the evening news sees striver porn. I've never heard it described as striver porn, but that's exactly what it is, right? It's just like, look at how like this kid to pay for his school books sold lemonade, right? Like literally we're willing to sacrifice everything, including our base sense of empathy and morality, for the idea that like, oh, look at them bootstrap, right? That we can create a situation that is horrible, but if people are doing their best or striving in that horrible situation, that's the story. The story isn't why do they have to do this in the first place? Why are children needing to sell themselves into child labor in order to get anything done in the first place? No, can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. Gotta celebrate their striving. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. My pug's in distress. I just need help. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. You need some help? Need some help, buddy? Need some help? Okay. I got a little bit of cheese for you, buddy. Let's get you a little bit of cheese. Cheese time for Milo. Cheese time for Milo. I know, buddy. That's really dumb that your face does this to you. That's really, really dumb. Oh, I know, buddy. Okay, I got a little bit of cheese for you here, buddy. What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Want that cheese? I know, buddy. You can work it out. You can work it out. Cheese is here for you if you need it, though. Here you go. Here you go. Good boy. Just take the cheese. Oh, I know, buddy. I know. It's tough. Especially when it's hot like this. Good boy. Good boy. Here's a little bit more. Here's some more. You want some more? Want some more? Oh, what a good boy. Can you sit? Can you sit? Oh, what a good boy. What a good boy. What a good boy. Here, oh, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Big swallow now. Big swallow. Big swallow. Good boy. Big swallow. Big swallow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. One more piece. High five. Good boy, my buddy. Good boy, my buddy. What a good little boy you are. What a good little boy you are. Oh, I know. That was very distressing. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, bud. You know, you're on your own now. My pug gets caught in this. You can hear it. He gets caught in this like reverse sneeze sort of thing. You're a good boy, buddy. You're a good boy. Where he like is snorting in, and what it is he's choking on his hard palate. That his hard palate is so far back in his throat that occasionally he'll actually choke on it, and he'll start to like kind of go like oh, and then like it starts to create a snorting kind of a thing. And of course, sometimes he thinks he'll get more cheese if he does it. You're not getting any more cheese, buddy. You had your cheese moment. That's good. And if you give him cheese, it makes him swallow, right? And so he can actually get out of it sometimes when he does that. But of course, sometimes he thinks if I keep doing it, I can get cheese. Okay, buddy. Okay. Hold on. Oh, that's a good little boy. Oh, that's a good little boy. Oh, it's a good little boy. And so then sometimes you like massage his throat, and that actually works it out. No more cheese, buddy. There's no more cheese. I know you're kind of faking it. I can tell. Yeah, I can tell. You're a good boy. Come lie down, buddy. What's this? What's this? What's this? Yeah, that's a good boy. Why don't you come give that a chew, okay, buddy? You're a good boy. You're a good boy. All right, guys. Thanks for tolerating that. When that happens, I can't ignore it, right? Like it's very distressing for him because it's like he's just caught in this thing, and I've definitely had to deal with him. Like, it hasn't been as bad as like an hour for a long time, but there has been like a whole hour where he's just been like. And there's like nothing's working, and I know it's causing him pain, right? I know it's hurting him, and so I gotta do something about it. And so, like anytime anybody starts to talk to me about how like, oh, it's cool if humans do like genetically modified stuff, and yeah, humans can genetically modify things, and that's totally fine. I'm like, pugs. You see these guys? You see these fucking guys? These guys are absolutely brutal. Oh yeah, the heat is the worst. Usually I get Milo out for like a big long walk. We do about a half-hour walk every day, but when it gets hot like this, I don't even bother. And he doesn't need it. Like, and when we start doing those walks, he's just like, no, I'm not gonna do it because like, there is a picture that somebody showed me of like a normal dog, and they're like. The heat regulators that are in the face are like quite large, like the sinuses. A pug's is like this big. It's like this tiny little thing. And so if they get overheated, man, it totals them. And like anybody starts talking to me about how humans genetically modifying stuff is totally fine, I'm just like, oh yeah, you've seen pugs, right? Like you've seen how badly we fucked that up, right? And what's funny is like Milo's actually like pretty good. Like Milo's okay. There are way worse pugs than him. Like it's pretty brutal. Anyway, bring forth the cheese. Yeah, exactly. He was walking 20 miles to his fast food job. A cop had a fundraiser to get him a bicycle. More at 11. Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it is like a sweet thing. Like it's nice that the cop would do that. Like, but it's despicable that it has to be done, right? Like. What the fuck? Most breeders aren't the best. Same with, well, and what really screwed up pugs is like, and you can see older pictures of pugs. Their snouts are actually much longer. It was the puppy milling. It was when they puppy milled the pug, right? And you just started to get breeders who just didn't give a fuck. They were just like, get them out, get them out, get them out. That's what messed it up. And so now I think it's illegal. It's illegal to puppy mill pugs because of this, and breeders are working really hard, I think, to try and get their snouts longer, their legs longer, try to get them back to form, because it didn't used to be this way. It used to be way better. We had a flat-faced cat for years. Her favorite thing to do is jump up in your lap and immediately sneeze right in your face. Milo does that to me too. If I'm ignoring him, and trying to focus on something, he will sneeze on me. He'll just be like, and I'm like, okay. Dallas went 85, Fujimori. Houston went 85, Fujimori. I don't know why these percentages matter. Like, Los Angeles isn't in Peru. Like, I don't get it. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are not a capitalist. You're a salaried employee working in an industry owned by an actual capitalist. People keep confusing simple commerce, which has always existed, with capitalism, a specific type of economy. Folks swear up and down that they're capitalists and don't actually own anything. The people who have the power to repossess your belongings if you miss a payment are the true capitalists. You are a worker and a consumer trying to be in false class solidarity with billionaires. Is that ever true, man? Is that ever true? I'm saving that. That's going to be a tweet later. Anti-homeless architecture is dystopian as fuck. Absolutely. Like, that. How disgusting. Like, how much did this cost? How much does it cost to actually install this type of infrastructure, do you figure? Right? Like, I'd like to see a cost-benefit analysis, right? How much does it actually cost to put this kind of shit in? Do you think that money would be better spent, I don't know, trying to solve homelessness as a problem? No? Before judging Adrian Zenz, try to walk a day in his shoes. For those of you who don't know, Adrian Zenz is one of the major CIA assets who is maintaining the Uyghur genocide grift. And like every single time I get into a chat with somebody and I ask for evidence, I always ask for evidence, they end up posting an article to me that's like from the BBC or something, and then you read the article and they're like, according to Adrian Zenz, and like Adrian Zenz has been widely discredited. Yeah, they need to paint those spikes in rainbow colors. Exactly. Then it'll be okay, right? Then it'll be okay. Wave the pride flag. Black Lives Matter, right? Yep, totally serious. Interesting society we live in. Find shelter here. Like, this is not that much better. Like, I mean, they're trying to address the issue, and I mean, I guess that's okay, but like, we're just such a stupid people, man. Like, there's just no other way to put it. Like, we're just such a stupid people. Like, give homeless people homes. Done. Give homeless people homes. I don't understand why this is difficult. I don't understand why this is controversial even. I don't give a fuck if some billionaire owns the place. Like, requisition it. You're the government. Who gives a fuck about these billionaires? Like, it's this worship of money. Like, we've just fallen into this worship of money where we're supposed to, like, hold money to be sacrosanct, and, like, the invisible hand decided it. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck what the invisible hand thinks about anything? As oil hits $70, new forecast shows Alberta economy primed to lead Canada in growth in 21 and 22. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. If the electric car actually catches on, as it should, right, it has the potential to absolutely tank the value of oil. And of course, like, you've got places like Australia, for example. Australia has actually put a tax on electric vehicles and solar energy. That's how dedicated they are to destroying the culture and destroying the society with climate change. That they are putting taxes on the solutions. A group was walking around town with mattresses on the needled areas of building and went to court. Yeah, probably multiple cities, Ruth. Probably multiple cities. Let's just enjoy this lovely picture for just a minute. We can delve into the horror show of all of this as long as we want, but we should pause. There are Chinese government sources that basically admit to Uyghur cultural genocide with slightly massaged language using terrorism as the excuse. I mean, I'd definitely take a look at that demand better. Like, I definitely would. And like, because in my perspective, what is happening is that China is facing enormous amounts of terrorism in this because, and we know that the CIA has funneled terrorists into Xinjiang in order to disrupt the Belt and Road Initiative. Like, we know that they're doing that, and so it's forcing China to do very strict security measures, and of course China is also guilty of like doing like mass surveillance, like the way that the NSA operates. China also does that, right? Like, and so don't get me wrong, like it's still guilty of all the like large scale surveillance and kind of stuff, but like what I am not seeing, okay, what I am not seeing is an intentional program to gather up a specific group, the Uyghurs, and cleanse them of their ideology. I'm just not seeing it. And yes, exactly. America has intentionally funded Uyghur separatism and terrorism. Of course they have. They've absolutely done that. Like, we have the documents. You can see them. Like, and like, the other thing that kills me about this Uyghur genocide thing is that anytime anybody actually goes to these facilities, anytime anybody actually goes and takes a look at them, they walk out saying, yeah, these are fine. Like the World Bank has done this. The China has invited the UN to come and inspect these places. Pakistan sent diplomats. Headline: Developer pulls plug on Keystone XL oil pipeline. See? President Grandpa is fixing stuff. I really do think that, I don't know how many of you saw the Tony Seba lecture that was given. I showed it on, not last Monday, but the Monday before, I believe. And this guy postulates that because electric vehicles and solar are poised to take over the market, that there's going to be enormous disruption in the fossil fuel industry from this. That the fossil fuel industry is going to not be able to compete with solar and not be able to compete with electric vehicles moving forward. And I mean, he makes really excellent points. I do think that it's going to be mainly cultural. That from the economic standpoint of it, it makes sense. But as always, economists never include the irrationality of the consumer, right? And that nostalgia, as well as just basic stupidity, keep lots of things from happening all the time. And then you do have places like Australia, which is straight up putting a tax on these things, so to protect their fossil fuel industry, right? That's what they're doing. And of course, what that means is it's going to put Australia behind, because places like China, India, large sections of Europe, probably Russia, and then ultimately the United States and Canada and South America, they're going to transition, right? And Australia is going to be like, oh, we're still burning coal. Watch how Sanders defends the genocide of Palestinians by tone policing criticism of Israel as Sanders' regime funds the genocide. Yeah, Sanders was always good, in terms of healthcare for all, that kind of thing. But his foreign policy is just as hawkish. He's just as hawkish. Yeah, people here love to drive huge trucks, but the beds aren't long enough to pull a 2x4. Obviously not work trucks. Yeah. No, it's just dick measuring, right? It's just look how impressive. It's just an extension of white fragility and the white supremacist mindset, right? I'm a big tough man, and I need to prove it with a big old truck. Legal cocoa cultivation, is it an option in Colombia? Should they just legalize it for people who want to do that, if they want them to have that? Yeah, I mean, drug prohibition always generates crime. And, it's getting to the point now where, the powerful know. They're aware. They know that what it's doing is generating crime. They're fine with that, right? Keeps the police busy. Justifies increasing their funding. You will be involved in a social activity. How is that even a fortune? If you're unemployed, it's not because there isn't any work. Just look around. A housing shortage, crime, pollution, we need better schools and parks. Whatever our needs, they all require work. And as long as we have unsatisfied needs, there's work to be done. So ask yourself, what kind of world has work but no jobs? It's a world where work is not related to satisfying our needs. A world where work is only related to satisfying the profit needs of business. This country was not built by the huge corporations or government bureaucracies. It was built by people who work, and it is working people who should control the work to be done. Yet, as long as employment is tied to someone else's profit, the work won't get done. That's exactly true. That's exactly true. Anti-capitalism is capitalism. I mean, it'll certainly be co-opted by capitalists. They'll definitely try to sell you. Yeah, police are the last public resource the rich still use. That's why they're so well funded. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Ugh, this poll. An embarrassment. A disgrace. Huge shout out to this kid of mine. 14 years old, has a part-time job at Burger King. Not only does he work every day, including weekends when most kids are out enjoying their summer. He goes in early and stays late almost every time he works. He loves every minute of it, making his own money, saving for a car, being responsible in his own decisions, becoming a respectable young man. I couldn't be more proud of him. Some of y'all lazy grown-ass people there should take notes. Just like worshiping your own, like, farewell to your childhood. Just like worshiping the dismantlement of your own kid's life. Don't y'all try to out-crazy us Americans. We're working on it. We're trying. Another really wonderful commentarian, the bothered boy here. The long-term viability of the Line 3 pipeline is being called into question in court. It's a pivotal fight in the battle against the oil and gas lobby, but it's getting almost no coverage. Yeah. Why would they cover it, right? Why would they cover it? Oh, well, our infrastructure is failing. Why would they cover that? Hey, remember when the Panama Papers came out and revealed that all the rich people in the world are part of an enormous criminal conspiracy to dodge taxes and hoard stolen wealth in offshore accounts and literally nothing happened? That's not quite true. The reporter behind the story, Daphne Caruana Galizia, was murdered. So something happened. I'm just going to start saving all of these. I feel like saving them and like making a book out of them. Just be like, here is what society used to look like. In Palestine, a USAID grant is promoting healthcare for 22% of children. Google 22% of Palestinian children for more information. I guarantee this is going to link. 22% of Palestinian children. Yeah. Here you go. Anyway, we all know. Anyone remember the Afghanistan Papers? I don't think I've even heard of that one, buddy. Afghanistan Papers. Here we go. The Afghanistan Papers. In a cache of previously unpublished interviews and memos, key insiders reveal what went wrong, the secret history of the war. I do remember this. These were the papers that revealed that the U.S. military had no idea what they were doing. Like, they had no strategy. They had no real understanding of what they were even doing in the region. That they were just basically blowing stuff up and kicking in doors for something to do. Like, and that they just like literally, even to this day, are still just like, yeah, I have no visibility into who the bad guys are. Like, they didn't even know who they were fighting. They just literally were in the region destroying everything, and they didn't even know who they were fighting. Like, but that was never the point, right? Yeah, we were devoid of a fundamental understanding of Afghanistan. We didn't know what we were doing. That's an Army Lieutenant General. Like, pretty brutal, right? Pretty brutal. Like you sort of hope that if you're going to invade a region and destroy it, that you would know who your enemies were and that you would have a plan as to what to do. But like, and yeah, exactly. All these things, you're exactly right, Onward, that like all these things disappear, and that happens intentionally, right? And you I hope everyone has noticed that like the news cycle has become like absurdly fast now. That like a story comes up and it goes down in a day. That like if a story actually penetrates and becomes part of the national conversation, it's gone by the next day. And that's, in my view, being done purposefully. That the CIA and the State Department know that they've lost credibility. They're well aware of it. That they know that the populace is turning against them. They know that the populace is waking up. But they also know that the populace is a dumb idiot. Like a big, stupid ogre that's not really capable of putting two and two together. And so their strategy now, because they can't control the discourse like they used to when there was only like 3 newspapers and 3 channels that you could watch. Well, now, because they can't control the discourse so effectively, their news strategy is just bombardment, just confusion and chaos. Just if it doesn't matter how egregious the story is if you can't focus on anything. If all you're doing is constantly like, what? And then they just bank on the fact that people will forget. And of course, they're also banking on the fact that everyone's fucking exhausted because capitalism exhausts everyone. Naked Capitalism is one of my favorite news sites, and the editor of the site said that it feels like the spigot of news has been shut off. Yeah, Trump is gone. The media seems very compliant. Well, and like, there's a reason why news media, like, their ratings are in the tank, right? And it's because, like, say what you like about Trump, he was entertaining, right? He was entertaining, and people tuned in because it was like watching the train wreck. But now that Trump's gone, they've got nothing to talk about, because when they were talking about Trump, because their whole role is to obfuscate and to not actually tell the story. And the story of the day is that the society has been taken over by billionaires. That's the story. There's no other story to talk about. That there is a rapacious group of sociopathic pedophiles who have taken over the society, and we are not to discuss it, right? We are not to discuss it. And we're certainly not going to discuss it in the halls of power that the billionaires own, right? Like, the billionaires are not going to allow the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, Fox, any of these places to actually discuss the billionaires. Like, no one's going to do that. So the discussion, even when you're talking about the billionaires, like, so take somebody like Bernie Sanders, who's standing up saying the billionaires need to be taxed. Well, the conversation is never about the billionaires, right? It's always about Bernie Sanders and his desire to do this. And then, like, a discussion of the ethical nature of billionaires or something. But nobody ever, like, looks at Bill Gates and says, oh, let's do like a whole expose on Bill Gates. What's Bill Gates doing today? What's he buying? What's he doing, right? Not discussed. Not discussed. It's completely off the page. And so there's a reason why alternative news sources and alternative people are beginning to become popular. It's because we're actually talking about the issue of the day, which is, have you noticed that billionaires have taken everything over, right? And so if you're not willing to actually discuss the story, well, then your whole model tanks. Anyway, Mayor John Tory roasts CN Tower decision to light up in Montreal Canadiens colors. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Mayor John Tory is so, like, the most milquetoast, limp-wristed leader. Like, you've got tent cities in your backyard, dude. Like, do something about it, you fucking limp-wristed coward. Yeah, Epstein. Epstein is exactly right. Like, how is the Epstein story not, like, a constant thing that is constantly talked about? Why is there not constant updates about Jeffrey Epstein? Like, you would think that the Jeffrey Epstein scandal would constantly, we would be funding major investigations and major introspective things. We would constantly be looking in to, like, who was involved in this. Natter, look at you. Thanks for coming in, bud. Good to see you. Oh, I know, buddy. I know. I spooked you. Nice to see you, bud. I haven't seen you in forever, man. Nice to see you. Yeah, Mayor Wet Blanket. You're absolutely right about that, bud. He was exactly the right mayor for a post-Rob Ford kind of thing, right? Like, Rob Ford was so fucking crazy and insane, and the way he went out was equally crazy and insane. And I think everybody was just like, please just give me, like, mayonnaise. Please give me mayonnaise. That, like, if all you've been eating for the last little while is, like, caliente peppers and, like ridiculous, like, spicy hot chicken wings. Maybe just like a nice tuna sandwich with like some mayonnaise. I could really go for that. Hey Raymond, how you doing? You know what? While there's some new people in here, like, share, subscribe. I got a Patreon. Give me money. If everybody gave me $2, every one of my subscribers gave me $2, I'd be paying rent with this shit. Yeah, give me money, capitalism. Isn't it great that I've got to sell myself to you guys instead of just talking to you like we're fucking people? Anyway. I mean, Epstein is why Bill Gates isn't being interviewed about vaccines every 5 minutes anymore. Yeah, like, well, and Epstein connects to everybody, right? Like, he like, Pinker was on those flights. I mean, Bill Clinton was on those flights, a bunch. Big surprise. Donald Trump, like, there's a huge story there, and it's really, really weird that it's not being paid attention to. Oh, you got me, Raymond. You got me. The more COVID-19 vax shots you get, the safer you'll be. Was Larry Summers? Oh, my God. Yeah, dude. Unbelievable. Just brutal. Just brutal. And, like... Ugh. Yeah, and that Epstein story... Like, what's going to happen is I'll turn, like, 70, right? And somebody will come out with some big book... You know, after this crew is dead, right? After Gates and Bezos and all these guys are dead, and then they'll come out with like this big book, and we'll all read it and be like, fucking hell, I can't believe we didn't round these people up and hang them. Jesus. White terrorism attack kills a Muslim family in Canada. Yeah. New York Times article. Oh, this is coming out of an American subreddit too. Yeah, so that's like really circulating. Good. Good. Chipotle's CEO was supposed to make $14 million in 2020, but because the pandemic could make things harder for him, they adjusted his bonus goals and paid him $38 million. Weird how CEOs get extra pay when things get harder. And like, CEOs are fundamentally worthless. Like, they don't do anything. If you actually if a CEO actually approached a situation and said, oh, this is actually going to require work, he would just hire somebody, right? Like, that's what a CEO actually does. They just hire people, right? Like, that's not a fucking job. Like, that's not something worth doing. Right? And the workers should be the one who decide who is going to do this stuff. Anyway. Hey, Jeff, how you doing, bud? Thanks for popping in. I thought Maxwell just dumped a bunch of names. Did she? Did she? I hope so. What's her name? Maxine? I always forget. Maxwell Epstein name drop. As files unsealed. That's from January. If you have a link, I'd love to see this dude, because like, I really. Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell names. Yeah, I'm just getting not old stuff, but like. And you know what's always funny, dude? Like, I'll click on this and they won't actually give me any of these names. Like, I have never once seen like a name, like a list of names, right? Like, it'll always be like, oh, here you go, Prince Andrew. I forgot about Prince Andrew. George Mitchell, Alan Dershowitz. Yeah, who gives a shit if you denied the allegations, dude? Like, I don't care about that at all. Like, anyway. Yeah, who the heck? I was exactly thinking that too. Ghislaine, where is she from? She's from like France or something, if I recall correctly. Is there? Oh, here we go. Is this what it is? Yeah, good old Flair magazine. Are you guys the one that are actually going to provide this list? Oh, okay, but you're going to do it in this like the most clickbaity way that you can. Donald Trump, yeah, of course. Prince Andrew. Naomi Campbell. Naomi Campbell? I mean, I guess like America's Next Top Model, she's probably funneling people Epstein's way, right? Kevin Spacey, yeah. Bill Clinton. Come on, that's it? That's all you're gonna give me? Bullshit. Friggin', this is what I'm talking about. Like, they'll give you those 5 names, like the 5 names that everybody's heard, but like people like Steven Pinker, I don't know why Steven Pinker doesn't make the cut, right? Like this guy that's walking around telling everybody like, oh no, everything's actually getting better. Like, fuck this guy. Did you discuss the Publica tax return? Oh yes, that did come up. But like my commentary is really quite simple. Like, yeah, we know. Like, there's like a new thing where everybody's like, oh, the billionaires, they're not paying any taxes, and I'm like sitting here being like, yeah, we know. Like, we know. Like, I would love to meet the person who like opens up the newspaper and is like, what? The billionaires are not paying any taxes? What? Like, we know. Like, we've known for decades. Like, we know. Like, we don't need more information about it. Like, we know. We should start arresting these people. Like, it's really, really clear to me. It's obviously fraud. It's obviously corruption. But the reality is, like, these guys buy politicians and buy news media outlets. It's why having even one billionaire, and I don't mean one person who has $100 billion, I mean one person with $1 billion, is extremely dangerous. It's extremely dangerous to have a billionaire in your society because they can buy all the media, they can buy your politicians, they can have this shield of public discourse, and then also they can buy a private military, right? It's extremely dangerous to have a single billionaire, and we've allowed multiple 100 billionaires. Like, it's a total fucking disaster. Wasn't John Legend involved with all of that? The White House is doing an investigation into the leak of their taxes. Yeah, of course. Like, the White House isn't going to do an investigation and like, hey, maybe billionaires should actually pay taxes. No, they're going to spend their time. Like, the United States is not a country, right? Like, it is it's a rogue terrorist state. That's what it is. It exists explicitly to protect the wealth of a small handful of people, and they will absolutely blow up their own citizens to do it. They will absolutely do that. Jordan Peterson accidentally endorsed genderqueer identities in his book Beyond Order. Yeah, who cares? Like, Jordan Peterson thinks climate change isn't real. Or if it is real, that it's not a big deal. Who gives a shit what Peterson thinks? Having a lunatic criminal in the White House for 4 years has infected a big swath of the population with a lunacy virus. If we don't inoculate ourselves with voting rights, it will become a pandemic called fascism. That's a really eloquent way of putting this, Rob Reiner. And I gotta tell you, I love Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner did The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally. There's one more film that he did that was just like absolutely beautiful. Well, there's a reason why Jordan Peterson gets jammed into our faces, right? It's because he's essentially a neoliberal grifter, right? He defends what he calls Western civilization, which is the code that he uses for white culture, right? And he defends Christianity without reading the Bible. Like, of course they're going to jam him in front of us and pretend as though that he's like this intellectual that should be paid attention to. Peru election uncertainty is taxing for host child mining. Who gives a fuck? Like, that mining company should be nationalized. Get the fuck out of here. Death is the solution to all problems. No man, no problem. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about Stalin, right? Stalin was just like an old West gunslinger, right? Like, take a look at his Wikipedia and like read the history of Joseph Stalin, which is a pleasure, by the way. It's really like what a story. If this story got told, this is one of his older pictures. If this story got told and he was just like a Texan, he would be a hero. People would love Stalin. People would love the story of Stalin if he was just like a Texan coming out of the West. Like, look at this guy. He looks like a desperado. This isn't the best one. Hold on, it's down here. Here, this is the one. Like, this is his wanted poster from the SARS, right? This is his mugshot. Look at him. He looks like he could just, he's got a duster and he's just like gonna kick it up and pull out a 6-shooter and just be like boom, 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 right? And his story is like unbelievable. Yeah, if he was just like a Louisiana like sheriff, a Louisiana gunslinger, yeah, what a pimp, exactly. If he was like a Louisiana gunslinger, he would be so popular. People would love the story of Stalin. And the fact that he like gets in bed with like an intellectual who was Lenin, who was writing like philosophical treatises, and Stalin and Lenin like become allies in this revolutionary project where Lenin is the like brain trust and Stalin is like the war hero who's like going and leading troops. And then eventually like Lenin dies and then is preceded by Stalin. Like it's an incredible story that does not get its due in Western media. Like, look at this guy. Look at this guy, right? And like the critiques of Stalin, I think hold some weight, but whenever people critique Stalin, they just kind of ignore the fact that he's just kind of a like fucking Western gunslinging type, right? Like, and if you don't think about that in Stalin, then it doesn't really, like, if you try to weight it just the one way, right? Like, Stalin wasn't perfect. Like, I think my largest critique of Stalin is that he couldn't bury the axe with Trotsky. Is this Trotsky? No, this is someone else. Stalin couldn't bury the axe with Trotsky. That was his biggest problem. That when I read the works of Trotsky and I read the works of Stalin, if those two guys had just got it, if they had connected and worked together, it would have really made the Soviet Union stronger by a large margin. But the reality was that they both hated each other. And they hated each other for exactly the reasons I'm talking about. Trotsky was a kind of a madman genius, right? Living in this sort of ephemeral space. And Joseph Stalin is a gunslinger, right? Essentially a cowboy. And so Trotsky thought that Stalin was stupid. And Stalin thought Trotsky was arrogant and an asshole. And the problem is that they both kind of are right about one another in like the worst way. But if they could find a way to just get through, and this talks about what I was talking about earlier, which is like the left eats itself, and it eats itself through moral purity, right? That's exactly it, Nader. Is that they couldn't have. Stalin and Trotsky had to be number one, without the other mucking up their ideal view of the world, which is this moral purity that exists on the left, that like they couldn't cede ground. Joseph Stalin even historically watched American West movies. Oh, interesting. That's fantastic. And like, and if they just got off their moral purity, right? If they just stepped back and said, okay, my vision of the world, right? It's probably not the vision of the world, right? And if I can just loosen up a little bit and just allow breathing space for me to be partially incorrect and for the other to be partially correct, then we can move forward. And those two views probably would amalgamate somehow and probably complement one another, right? But at the end of the day, like, they just couldn't get over it. They just couldn't get over it. And so Stalin ends up the victor in this conflict, and he does it exactly the way you expect a gunslinger to do it, right? He draws first and faster, and and it's to the detriment of his own project, which, I mean, kind of speaks, like, Trotsky's critique of Stalin and kind of being stupid is something that Lenin also said of Stalin, right? That Stalin, like, he isn't an intellectual brain trust, right? When you read Stalin's work, you can tell, like, he wasn't on the same intellectual level as Lenin or Trotsky, like. But he's not stupid. Like, he's not an idiot by any stretch of the imagination. But compared to someone like Lenin or Trotsky, I can see why that would have been voiced. Yeah, you're right. The left eats itself because there's no middle ground between staunch idealism and capitulation to any conflicting argument. Yeah. Pragmatism doesn't mean ditching your ideals at the first sign of trouble. Yeah, and like, I myself have, and I described it earlier, so I won't go into it again, but I myself have experienced this kind of like you have a minor disagreement on an issue, right? And that minor disagreement allows for the whole project to fall apart, and it's annoying, right? When we as leftists, especially as disorganized as we are, like, we need to forgive one another. We need to learn how to forgive one another. And I take a look at Stalin and Trotsky, and that's the lesson that I learned. That if Stalin was able to just allow Trotsky to exist, I think it would have strengthened the project overall. But he wasn't. Stalin's paranoia was probably a bigger issue than his intellect, yeah. Hi, Ward. Thanks for popping in. Wigwith, there's a great movie, Something Like How Stalin Died, has Steve Buscemi and a bunch of other funny actors. One of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. Yeah, that movie got banned in Russia for good reason. I think it has the Monty Python gang in it, doesn't it? I haven't seen this movie myself, but Stalin's death movie. The Death of Stalin, yeah. This movie gets banned for obvious reasons, right? Like, what is this but American propaganda, right? Like, it's for sure going to lampoon and mock historical figures and portray them incorrectly, I bet. Like, and a comedy of terrors, like, it's right in the title. Like, this is anti-communist propaganda, and the reason, and it's probably really well done, right? Like, you look at the caliber of actors on the screen here, right? It's probably really, really well done, but it's going to be anti-communist propaganda. And the reason why this kind of thing is dangerous is because this kind of stuff is what leads to McCarthyism, right? Like, people start to watch this and they believe it. Like, they think that this is what happened. I think Hollywood has lost its shine. I think that's true too, because they're no longer they no longer hold the center, right? They no longer hold the center of everyone's attention. That information or ideas or artists can be successful without Hollywood, and people can just make stuff and release stuff into the world now, and Hollywood will still exist because it's where the money is. Right? And so you'll still get your big blockbuster films and your big propaganda films like The Avengers. Absolutely is. But you'll never... But it definitely has, like... And the era of, like, the big movie star is over. Right? Like, it's no longer the case that, like, there is, like, a star, like a Brad Pitt, that you can put out there and everybody be like, ooh, the new Brad Pitt, right? That just doesn't happen anymore. And, like, people like Brad Pitt are now in, like, ensemble organizations, right? Like, that actors now kind of present themselves as ensembles. And that's part of the unfolding of all of this. Anyway, that was a nice, fun divergence there, talking about Stalin. I don't know how we got there. But It's always fun. And like, what's so interesting about Stalin as well? I'll say this before moving off on him. Literally everybody who went and met Stalin outside, like the FDR, Roosevelt, he was good friends with Stalin. He considered Stalin to be a good friend. That they got on thick as thieves. Like and Churchill rather liked Stalin. Don't quote me on that last one, but FDR definitely. And like, and I think it's literally just because Stalin, it's just like, because he had that kind of gunslinging attitude and that kind of thing, he was just like kind of a bro, you know, just kind of a nice guy who just sort of finds himself in the position. And my favorite thing about Stalin, people in the West here constantly say of Stalin, oh, he was a dictator. Stalin was a dictator and it was a reign of terror, right? Stalin attempted to resign on 4 separate occasions. There were 4 separate occasions that Stalin attempted to resign, and his own people refused to accept it. Yeah, a real fucking dictatorship, eh? Like a real fucking like, yeah. Oh, how many dictators have tried to resign and their own people like say no? Oh yeah, real reign of terror. Yeah, but FDR and Stalin disagreed to who to put in charge of Operation Overlord. I mean, but yeah, you can have disagreements, right? Sure. Oh, that was the code name for Normandy. Yeah, I mean, of course, Operation Overlord. And like, don't get me wrong, like, this is an enormous operation, right? Like, look at this. It's absolutely absurd. And America is right to, like, tell big stories about it. But the truth is that if the Russians didn't defeat the Germans on the Eastern Front, Normandy could have never been successful, right? I'll say it again and again and again, right? If Hitler had not invaded Russia, he would have won that war. Like, he would have had the industrial power. He would have had the strength. And Russia did not want a war with Germany. They just didn't want that war. So I think there was respect in government. Now there's no reason to care. Just get paid. Yeah, that's right, Ruth. That's exactly how everyone's operating, because the centers of power are no longer in leaders, right? Elected officials like Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, right? National leaders are no longer where the power lies. The power lies in corporate enterprise, right? It's these corporations. And like, people are like, oh no, I don't want to, you can't support Stalin, he was a dictator. But like, Bill Gates is a fucking dictator. Who is Bill Gates but a dictator? He's got hundreds of billions of dollars. He can dictate terms with whatever he wants. And like, when a billionaire says government's the problem, well, we're electing our government officials. We don't elect fucking Bill Gates. Say what you want about Stalin, but the stash was sweet. You gotta acknowledge. You gotta give credit where it's due. His stash was like, sidebar. Dude, this is all one big sidebar. There's no sidebars. I've noticed there's a paradigm shift in the names used for towns and cities in Palestine. Colonial settlement names are being shunned for the indigenous Arabic and Aramaic names. Interesting. There is a general shift in how Palestine is being perceived here in the West. I'm yet to see a recent poll, but even polls as late as like several years back were indicating that the both sides narrative was softening. And this time, when the Israeli-Palestinian conflict became central to the national conversation, there was very little pushback on the idea that this is a genocide, right? Like, everybody I was talking to and everything I was seeing with like the only narrative that no one was really pushing the both sides. And I shouldn't say they weren't pushing it, but like, the populace is not biting down on that. Like, I think that they're looking at this situation and being like, fucking Jerusalem is flying fighter jets into this open air prison and bombing the shit out of it, while the Palestinians are firing like bottle rockets and shit. And you do have like seminal works like Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom, like coming out and just showing it for what it is. And so this narrative, so what you're observing there, Natter, I think is tied in to what I'm talking about here, which is that it seems like the whole world is no longer willing to accept this both sides narrative, and that it really is just like Canada and the United States are now Abby Martin is totally an unsung hero, and I'm sorry, it does need to be said, and Ruth, you feel free to admonish me on this because you're correct to do so, but Abby Martin is a babe. She is just a foxy babe, man. Anytime she's on talking about Palestine, Israel, or like any like of like the Yemeni genocide or like the Venezuela stuff, I'm just like, you're such a foxy babe. I just would love to even be in the room with you, just to see you live. What a babe. I know. I'm disgusting. I know. I just don't care. I don't care. The heart wants what the heart wants. What a woman, yeah. The heart wants what the heart wants. Okay. What do we got? Oh yeah, that's how this all started, with this sweet-ass quote. Death is the solution to all problems. No man, no problem. That's exactly Stalin, dude. I'm laughing about it again. No man, no problem. That's like, put that in a film. Like, that's a great quote. That's a great quote. Every home is worth protecting. Logged. Yeah. If you paid just $1 in federal income taxes in 2018, you paid more than Elon Musk, a centibillionaire, now worth $151 billion. Quite literally, tax the rich. No woman, don't cry. I gotta be careful, man. I could get pinged with that, because my renditions of these songs are so good that the algorithm will definitely pick it up. All right, we got a bridge. Oh, King George crosses Vancouver's line. Okay, cool. His history. I really like it when subreddits do this. Like, most of the subreddits I visit are like news oriented, but a couple, like Our Canada, which is run by fascists, but that's fine, because they've got the largest audience, so you got to pay attention to them. And Our Ontario also does a really great job of just like putting in a nice picture to see. Thanks, Ruth. Property tax, so when you pay off your mortgage, you still don't own your home. Yeah, exactly. The Senate bipartisanly voting to give millions of dollars to Jeff Bezos. I can feel myself jokering out. Yep. Yeah. Faith Goldie, Doug Ford, and a shirt that endorses running people over with a truck. What the fuck? Oh yeah. Here we go. This is worth. Can I save this picture? I can't. I don't care. Okay. Brutal. Pushback on effort to preserve old storefronts. I don't care about that at all. I don't like. Have you discussed the G7 agreement on a $15 corporate tax rate? Yeah. So what's happening there is that all the G7 has begun talking about, and they haven't actually reached the agreement, but they are talking about it, on doing a 15% corporate tax rate in all G7 nations. Yeah, it's a joke. You're absolutely right about that. It's going to just funnel money through non-G7 countries. Yeah, and like, it's not going to be effective. And also, 15% is so fucking low. Who gives a shit? Like, That's lower than what's being paid in America right now. And like, look, this talk that we couldn't tax these billionaires because they'll just shelter it away is fucking bullshit, right? Here's a couple of one-liners that you could pass through the House and the Senate. All income earned by all income earned by American citizens must be declared, including all shelters, offshore accounts, or any other organization whatsoever. The tax rate is set at X. Tax avoidance and tax evasion are the same thing. And then arrest these guys. There you go. You have to declare all your wealth. I don't care what fucking organization you use. Tax evasion and tax avoidance are the same fucking thing. Here's the tax rate. You're even complaining about it? You're fucking under arrest. Like, grow a spine. These guys are just fucking cowards who work for these billionaires, right? Arrest them, put them in a jail cell, see how quickly they start paying their taxes. Like, fucking unbelievable. And it is that easy. Like, this idea that they're just gonna, like, shuffle their money around. Well, are they gonna shuffle their body around? Are they gonna shuffle off out of here? Yeah, great, that's fine. Banishment seems fine, right? And the idea that we can't, like, get their fucking bank accounts is absolutely asinine, right? We just don't want to. We're just not doing it. It really is very simple. We can do it. You can pass the you don't even need to pass the legislation. Like, literally just fucking start arresting these guys. Like, set the tax rate. You have to declare your fucking taxes. No, I don't give a shit if it's in an offshore account. You're an American citizen benefiting from American policies. You pay American taxes. Too fucking bad. And the reason why it's not happening is because we're ruled by cowards. And our populace is just stupid and gullible. Which we are. Like, I can't believe how fucking gullible we are as a people. We're unbelievably gullible. We believe anything. We believe fucking anything. The 55 large corporations that paid zero in federal income taxes in 2020 spent $450 million on lobbying and political contributions in recent year. This is what a broken, rigged for the rich system looks like. Yeah. Like, the American... America is not a country, right? It's a rogue state. It's a rogue terrorist state. That's what The Hague has called it. Yeah, I love it. Rehiring is finally on the table for more restaurants, but not all workers are coming back. Yeah, because fuck you. That's why. Like, this idea that, like, oh, we have too many benefits and all this kind of stuff. No, it's because fuck you. Because the capitalist class revealed itself to be a sociopathic group of nightmare ghouls. And we are beginning to realize that, oh, my time is more valuable to me than your restaurant. Who gives a fuck about this at all, right? I'm generally of the opinion that we should just stop showing up to these places completely. We shouldn't go out to use them. We shouldn't go out to find jobs at them. We should stop using them completely because they are built on wage slavery. That's how they're built. And, I mean, we're so stupid and gullible, so none of this is actually going to happen. But, like, if we actually had a conscience or a moral soul whatsoever, we would say wage slavery is wrong and we should do away with it. But that's not going to fucking happen. So we get guys like this whinging about how, like, oh, there's too much support for people. Go fuck yourself. The sociopaths are crying. Good. Cry louder. Your tears taste delicious. Different countries have different corporate deductibles. Multinationals take advantage of different tax codes, but that's only because we let them, right? That's only because we let them, right? The idea that, like, oh, I am an American citizen, but my company is owned by Nicaragua. Like, that's because we let them. Just stop letting them. Like, it's not tough. It isn't difficult. right? Like it's made complex by people who benefit from it being complex. It isn't. It is very simple. You could literally say, oh, you're an American citizen? This is the tax rate. You have to declare everything that you earn in any company, any multinational, anything. And if you don't, then you don't get to live here. It's very simple. Don't put them in jail. I might be a billionaire someday. Yeah. I'm exactly in the same boat as you are, Onward. I can't go to restaurants without feeling bad for the people who work there. Yeah. Anytime I go get, like, groceries, anytime I go out and use this kind of stuff, I'm just like, ugh. It feels dingy. It feels brutal. And what's even worse is when they try to, like, when I go to the grocery store and the person who's serving me is, like, neutral or even grumpy, I'm like, okay, yeah, I feel you. Like, I feel you, right? And at least that's, like, a genuine interaction. It's the people who are just like, oh, how you doing today? Oh, can I help you out with anything? Oh, I'm like, fuck, shut the fuck up. I know it's this brutal act. It just feels just evil and gross. Well, yeah, corporations aren't citizens because we've made it so, right? Like, we have purposefully made the situation complex and difficult, right? The worst job I ever had was overnight stocking shelves. I still feel bad for those people. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're drawn to a close here, guys. We've hit 9 o'clock. That's the end of the stream. Thank you all for being here. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. Think about donating to my Patreon, and leave a comment. Leave a comment. The algorithm loves comments. You guys are doing wonderfully. I know you are. Right? You are making good decisions for yourself. You're making good decisions for the people around you. The billionaire class spends billions of dollars to gaslight you. Do not let them. You are a divine being living in divine energy. And we could use some of it right now. Good luck. We're going to need it.